Thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is currently 12 a.m. and today's date is the 12th of March, the 12th day of March, 2025. How are we doing? It's been a beautiful day. A long phone call got me so tired, but anyway, we're back here. Okay, we're back here. All right. It was a long day yesterday in the White House for sure. President Trump and Elon Musk definitely caused a show in the White House for a fact. So Trump definitely he bought a Tesla. He bought a Tesla to celebrate Elon Musk's bravery and for being a patriot. And a lot of people are now doing what the president did. A lot of people at Fox News are doing the same. Hannity just said he bought his own self-driving Tesla. He showed a screenshot of the order he made on the Tesla self-driving car, and the president started this whole thing. So it may become a trend where people are just buying Tesla just to support Elon because of the backlash he's facing. But let's listen to what the president has to say. And Elon too had a very important um, announcement to make right here. Listen.
They have one, which is $35,000, which is pretty low. What is that all about?
Yeah, I guess we want to make the point that Teslas aren't all expensive. You can get a Tesla for as little as $35,000.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank the president for his support. This means a lot. And also thank everyone out there who is supporting Tesla. It's really terrible that there's so much violence being perpetrated against people like Tesla, Tesla supporters, Tesla owners, Tesla stores. These are innocent people who've done nothing wrong.
But nobody's been, it hasn't been, there's been some physical damage, a little damage, and we want to keep it that way because I don't want to say this, it's just not the appropriate, but law enforcement's out there watching everybody. We don't want this to happen. And not to somebody that's been so good to our country. He didn't have to do this. He didn't have to go through this. And we can't let it happen. And aside from that, I happen to love the product. It's a lot nicer if you also happen to love the product, and he's done a really good job. Go ahead, Peter.
Is there, I guess this is for Elon Musk, is there a discount? President Trump wrote the art of the deal. Is there any kind of room for negotiating here?
Let me answer that. I know he'd give me a discount, but honestly, I don't want to ask for one. I'm president, and so I want to pay full price.
And what is your message, President Trump? Buying a new car while there are some folks who will see this clip at home and they are struggling with their retirement accounts down at the moment, uncertainty about work ahead.
Well, I think they're going to do great. I think our country had to do this. We had to go and do this. They've taken away, other countries have taken away our business. They've taken away our jobs. I did it initially very strongly against, as you know, China and some others in the first term. And it was a very successful term. We had no inflation. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. And then we had COVID, which we had to straighten out, so I didn't want to be doing anything with respect to other countries at that time. And we did a great job with it. We handed the stock market over. It was higher than it ever was. And think of that, higher than it ever was to that point before. And nobody thought that was even possible. We did a great job. But we had the greatest economy in history. This economy, in my opinion, is going to blow it away. But what I have to do is I have to get the workers back. I have to get the factories open. We have 90,000 factories and plants are closed from what you had just prior to NAFTA, which is not very long ago. 90,000, think of it, 90,000 factories and plants are closed from what it was, and it's just not right. So, and we gave it away. Presidents before me gave it away, and I could name every one of them, but they gave it away, and we're taking it back. We're taking our jobs back. And one of the things I'll say, by the way, speaking of Tesla, he manufactures more cars. I mean, he opened this incredible plant, one of the largest plants in the world in Texas. Could you talk about that, Ella?
Yeah, it's worth noting that the Tesla cars have the most U.S. content of any cars on the market, so they're the most American made. We have the biggest factory and the most advanced automotive factory in Texas that we've opened and continue to expand. And so this is very much these are great products. The Model S is one best car ever. So they've all these cars have won incredible awards. So they're great cars and they're American made. And I think, try it. You'll like it.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, beyond the cars, they're great. But we have to celebrate somebody that has the courage to do this. He could have said, I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to get involved. Let the country go to hell. He didn't want to do that. And remember, he's going to find, and we're up to almost $500 billion worth of waste and fraud. And abuse, $500 billion. We give him $2 billion here, $2 billion there, not millions. It was a bet. If it was $1 million or $2 million, that's a lot of money. But we're talking about billions of dollars being given to defunct, scams, given to people with nothing. They have nothing going. They open up a subchapter S corporation, and they put $2 billion into it from nowhere. And we've caught a lot of them. I wish we could catch all of them, but we've caught a lot of them. And he's been largely responsible. So we have to celebrate him. And it's not that he's conservative. I don't even know if he's conservative. I will tell you this.
These days
I've been doing this I've known him for a pretty long time. He endorsed me. I didn't know him that well when he endorsed me. But in the time I've known him, he has never asked me for a favor. He didn't ask me for this. I said, Elon, I don't like what's happening to you. And Tesla's a great company. I don't like what's happening. It's, from our standpoint, American cars, American made. He employs thousands of people. He's got, at the same time, he has the most modern plants in the world. I said, I don't like what's happened to you. I'm going to do it. I didn't even know he was going to come. He's never asked me for anything. He endorsed me, and he never asked me. I didn't even know he was going to endorse me. The guy has never asked me. He's not saying, in fact, I could go a step further. I ended the electric mandate. Okay, I ended the electric mandate, and I figured, when's this guy calling to raise hell with me? And he never called. I mean, he never called me. If I were him, I would have called.
So on that,
because he's probably even better than I am.
Mr. President, is Elon Musk rubbing off on you? Is electric then the way to go?
It's not that this isn't for electric or gas, because people have their choices.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I know people that have these cars. I know one man, we see him all the time. Yeah. He has 5 of them.
Yeah.
He thinks it's and he was a big guy for Ferraris and other things. And he says, man, it blows him away. I know other people, they have 3, 4, they love them. They love them. And some people like the gas, and they should have their options. Right. I'm all about options. But I'm telling you, I ended the electric mandate, and I was waiting for a call. I said, did Elon call yet? They said, no, sir. The next day, what about Elon? Did he call? He never even mentioned it to me, never complained. Until this moment, I'm just bringing it up. Who would do that? Yeah. He has never asked me for a thing. And he's built this great company, and he shouldn't be penalized because he's a patriot. He's an incredible patriot. And I don't even know if he's a Republican.
What's your reaction to the stock market drop today?
Well, I'm not sure if it was.
Tesla stock is
You're
also...
going to have drops, and markets are going to go up, and they're going to go down.
Yeah.
But you know what? We have to rebuild our country. Our country has been stripped of its jobs, of its factories. And I'm tired of seeing where they build apartments, cheap apartments in an old broken down factory. But you have factories all over the place that are empty from many decades ago. And we're going to change it around. And it's all taxing policy. You know, it's really a policy because we have great workers, great people. It's really a policy of taxing and incentives. And I'm bringing the incentives back. And I'll tell you what, numerous plants, and I don't want to mention specifically, but I'll mention this one. Numerous plants in Mexico and other places that were under construction or soon to be under construction are now coming here, and they dropped that because it was unfair what was happening. Mexico, they were building cars, they were selling them into the United States with no tax, no nothing, and in the United States we were allowing them to take our jobs and take our factories, and we don't do that anymore. Now, from a president, it would be a lot easier if I just coasted for another 4 years. I would have been an 8-year president, I had the best economy in history in my first 4 years. I would have done very well with this one. And I had a decision to make. Do I want to do this or do I not? Do I want to do it right? The right thing to do is what we're doing. We're going to get our jobs back, and we're not going to be laughed at. Now, I will say this, that already Canada, and I respect very much, as you know, there's a very strong man in Canada who said he was going to charge a surcharge or a tariff on electricity coming into our country. He has called and he said he's not going to do that. Okay, he's not going to do that. And it would have been a very bad thing if he did, and he's not going to do that, so I respect that. But we were just informed that he's not going to do that. Look, we've been treated very unfairly by Canada. We've been treated very unfairly by Mexico. But we've been treated very unfairly by every country all over the world. The European Union is horrible, horrible. And we're going to get it back. And I have a choice. I could just coast, and eventually there'd be a blow-up down the road, maybe a long way. But we owe $36 trillion, and we're going to get it back. We're the biggest, we're the best, and I'm very optimistic. I have to tell you, I'm very optimistic about the country. Much more optimistic this way than if I did it the easy way. Yeah. I could have done it the easy way, I could have coasted. Biden left us a mess. He left us tremendous inflation, tremendously high costs of products. He left us a mess, but he also left us a mess with millions of people that poured into our country that are criminals. Millions of those people happen to be criminals. And we're looking for them all over the place. We're looking for them. And Holman and Christie are doing an incredible job. But he left us a horrible situation, and we're changing it. But one of the things we're changing is we're going to make our country really wealthy again. We're going to bring our jobs back. Right now, we're like a chicken that's being plucked at from all over the world. We're not going to let that happen anymore.
What are your CEOs?
But very importantly, and I said it, Ukraine, ceasefire. Ukraine, ceasefire. Just agreed to a little while ago. Now we have to go to Russia, and hopefully President Putin will agree to that also, and we can get this show on the road. We can get this horrible war where 2,000-3,000 soldiers a week, every week, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 sometimes. I get the reports. And they're not American soldiers. They're Ukrainian and they're Russian. But people are being killed outside of that. People are being killed in the cities as things explode throughout the cities. And we want to get that war over with. So I think it's a very big, I think it's a big difference between the last visit you saw at the Oval Office and this. So that's a total ceasefire. Ukraine has agreed to it, and hopefully Russia will agree to it. We're going to meet with them later on today and tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to wipe out a deal. But I think the ceasefire is very important. If we can get Russia to do it, that'll be great. If we can't, we just keep going on, and people are going to get killed. Lots of people.
Is Zelensky invited back to the White House?
Sure, absolutely.
Mr. President, you mentioned the ups and downs in the stock market. You said it'll go up, it'll go down. But do you and your tariff policies right now bear any responsibility for the turmoil we're seeing this week?
Biden gave us a horrible economy. He gave us horrible inflation. And I think the market was going to go very, very bad. If anything, I have a lot of very smart people, friends of mine and great businessmen. They're now investing because of what I'm doing. Because long term, what I'm doing is making our country strong again. Financially strong, militarily strong, and strong if we want to get away. Remember this, we have wars. When I left, we had no wars. We didn't have Ukraine and Russia. We didn't have October 7th. We didn't have that disaster that took place with the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And you look at what's happened there. We caught the major terrorists, which Biden wouldn't have caught. Why didn't he catch him? I caught him. 5 weeks into the presidency, I caught the man responsible for Abigail. And he's going to pay hell right now. He's a bad dude. He's a bad guy. But we didn't have these problems. I had no inflation. I had a great economy. He gave you high prices. You couldn't buy bacon. You couldn't buy anything. And also, I inherited a situation with eggs. The price of eggs was through the roof. Well, now the price of eggs has come down a lot. Interest rates have come down. Gasoline prices have come down. It's all coming down. It's all a beautiful thing. I can do it the right way, the wrong way. We're doing it the right way. And I have tremendous confidence in this country and the people of this country. Tremendous confidence. Much more so than if I sat back for 4 years and had a good time in the Oval Office. I want to look at cars.
What are you going to tell your
I'm
CEO,
listening,
Mr.
That
President?
would be helpful.
You mentioned the
I want to
Ontario.
say, as a function of the great policies of President Trump and his administration, and as an act of faith in America, Tesla is going to double vehicle output in the United States within the next 2 years.
That's a big deal. That's good. And by the way, he makes one car. This one I don't understand. This one I don't want, but that's okay. Without a steering wheel. It comes out next year, right?
Yes.
Explain that, please.
Yes, well, the Cybercab starts production in Texas next year, and it's self-driving. We have so much confidence in the self-driving nature of it that it'll actually not have a steering wheel, it will not have pedals. It'll either self-drive or not drive at all, but it'll self-drive.
President Trump,
And I'm going to pass on that particular.
before this event today, when's the last time you bought a new car?
Well, I buy a lot through my children because they run the company now. I used to buy a lot. I haven't bought a new car in a long time.
What was your first car?
The only thing I know is the Beast. I got a big car with very thick windows and thick side panels.
Is that going to like
We buy a lot of cars.
Will you reduce it back?
He was a gentleman. Look, I said it before. We give Canada $200 billion a year. We subsidize Canada between all of the things we give them and trade. We give them. We don't have to have cars made in Canada. We don't have to have lumber from Canada. We have tremendous lumber. We have tremendous trees. All I have to do is unfreeze them from some of the restrictions that were put on. I can do that with an executive order. We don't need energy. We have more energy than anybody else in the world. So we spend $200 billion a year subsidizing Canada. We don't have to do that. And frankly, the way that gets solved is Canada should honestly become our 51st state. We wouldn't have a northern border problem. We wouldn't have a tariff problem. They don't have much. They spend very little, as you know, the least of almost anybody on military. And we spend the most of anybody on military. We have a great military. I rebuilt the military during my first time. We're going to have to rebuild it a little bit again. Not that much, but we're going to have to rebuild it a little bit again. But Canada would be great as our cherished 51st state. You wouldn't have to worry about borders. You wouldn't have to worry about anything. And by the way, Canada is very highly taxed, and we're very low tax. We're considered a low tax nation because of me, because I cut the taxes so low. So the people of Canada would pay much less tax.
But just to be
It
clear,
makes
with
a
that-
lot of sense. And by the way, when you take away that artificial line that looks like it was done with a ruler, and that's what it was. Some guy sat there years ago and they said, "Brah." Well, when you take away that and you look at that beautiful formation of Canada and the United States, there is no place anywhere in the world that looks like that. It's so
Mr. President, it's on Greenland.
And then if you add Greenland, that's even.
I mean,
Mr.
That's
President,
pretty
what
good.
are you
Look
going to tell the
beautiful.
CEOs tonight, Mr. President?
Okay.
What are you going to tell the CEOs
I'm going to
tonight?
look at this. I'm going to make a decision. Do you want to hear what my decision
Let's
is?
see it.
Okay. What's your best of these cars? What do you think?
Well, the car that I drive is the Model S flat
Which is
seat.
that one?
That red one in the middle.
I like that. Yeah.
yeah.
I like that.
It's 0 to 60 miles an hour in 2 seconds. It's faster than a Ferrari.
It's pretty fast. I don't know if my people can handle it. They're going to be using it more. I'm not allowed to use it.
It looks fast.
That's a fast one.
Just to be clear, sir, the 50%, is that going to go into effect on Canada or not?
Which one?
The 50% tariffs? Will you...
I'll let you know about it. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll let you know. But I appreciated his call. I thought it was nice. This is beautiful. Whoa! Should I get in?
Get in.
Okay.
Have you ever sat
Let me
behind the
get in
steering
a
wheel of
second.
one of these? Of a Tesla?
You want my notes?
Elon Musk is the ultimate salesman, y'all. And of course, the greatest negotiator, the greatest deal maker, President Trump, right there. I mean, take a look at this. This is a show right here. Tesla shares or Tesla stocks has gone up. Okay. Tesla shares has gone up, ladies and gentlemen. As soon as this happened, it went up. Okay. Right now, Tesla share is 8% up.
Yeah.
They gave me notes. I said, I'm not biting. I don't need
I'll
notes.
take one. I can take it.
Thank you. Now, let me get into this sector. I'll watch Secret Service go crazy. Thank you.
I mean, if you actually drove it around, it would really be wild.
Beautiful. Wow.
I get on this other side.
That's beautiful. This is a different panel than I've had. Everything's computer. That's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, this is a break and an accelerator. Give Secret Service one.
That's beautiful.
Can you start it?
Should I?
Let's hear the engine.
Oh, it's
You gonna get it wrapped in gold?
So, do you want to actually drive it?
You don't want me to drive it, do you?
I saw
Secret
Biden
Service.
doing
I'll tell you,
test
it
moves
could
here
be-
once in the Jeep.
Yeah, but
Very easy to drive.
that's you're the only one that saw it.
Secret Service said, nah, sir. Nah. Sir, you can't drive. Sir, you can't drive. I mean, it's pretty cool to see the President of the United States bringing in American car company into the White House. This is nice. Okay. Of course, it's Elon Musk. Okay. This is his friend, but this is really good for an entrepreneur, you know?
So it's like driving a golf cart, basically.
Very simple.
It's very simple. So it's literally like golf cart that goes really fast. There's no gears. No
This is really amazing.
You gonna get it?
Let's take a look at
Mr. President, you gonna get it wrapped in gold?
that. Think Biden could get into that car? No, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Mr. President talks about some of the violence that's been going on around the country at dealerships. Some say they should be labeled domestic terrorists.
I will do that. I'll do it. I'm going to stop them. We catch anybody doing it because they're harming a great American company. You know, I've stuck up for the NFL. I've stuck up for a lot of American companies and other companies, but American companies. I did a very big favor for the NFL. I do favors for all. When you heard an American company, especially a company like this, supplies so many jobs that others are unable to do, when you do that, those people are going to go through a big problem when we catch them. And we have we got a lot of cameras up. We already know who some of them are. We're going to catch them. And they're bad guys. They're the same guys that screw around with our schools and universities, the same garbage. And we're going to catch them. And let me tell you, you do it to Tesla and you do it to any company, we're going to catch you and you're going to go through hell.
Mr. President,
what do you tell
your
CEOs
comments.
tonight at the Business Roundtable, especially with the
Well, I have a roundtable to make in a little while. I just considered this much more important because I want to buy one of these. My whole staff is so excited because I told them they're going to safely use them, and they can't believe it. So Margot, wherever you are, Margot, she's going to use it. They're all going to be using it, and they're going to have a good time using it. And oh, there you are, Margot. Look at Margot's right there. What are you, a member of the press now? I think she's become a member of the press. Takes great pictures. What do you think of it, Margot? Do you like the idea?
I love it.
Okay, good.
We're gonna have fun.
They're very happy.
Mr. President, your comments the other day not ruling out a potential recession seemed to rattle the stock markets. The Commerce
I think this
Secretary said there
country is
wouldn't
going
be
to
one.
boom, just so you
Well,
know.
Just specifically on the recession.
Yeah.
Do you
I
think
this
there will be a
country-
recession?
I don't see it at all. I think this country is going to boom. But as I said, I can do it the easy way or the hard way. The hard way to do it is exactly what I'm doing, but the results are going to be 20 times greater.
Mr. President,
And remember, Trump is always right.
And what do you say to
If
Americans?
you look at what I've said over the last 10 years, Trump has been right all the time. This is the way to do it. We're going to make America great again. You know, to make it great, you have to have jobs, you have to have factories, you have to have. I look at some of the things that, like this last administration, he was the worst president in the history of our country. Nothing was happening. Nothing. He had no idea what was going on. Our country went to hell. And then to allow millions of people to come in that are prisoners and mental institution patients and all of the things, gang members, drug lords, we're searching them all down now, trying to get them out of our country. And we're going to do that. But on the financial end and the economic end, what we're doing is, to me, it's the most exciting. Our country will be greater than ever before, and it won't take too long.
And what's your message to Americans right now, sir, who are worried about the stock market? What's your message to them as they watch it?
Let's go see the Cybertruck. I did buy one of these.
This is bulletproof.
I mean, look, in terms of imagination, I think I have a great imagination. Who else but this guy would design this, and everybody on the road is looking at it? It's amazing, actually. As soon as I saw it, I said, that is the coolest design. It's
I'm not gonna cap. When I saw Cybertruck, I said, "This is the car I gotta get. I gotta get this car right here." I'm not gonna lie. Look, Cybertruck is what I actually have been waiting for. A lot of people are gonna say, "Well, it's trash. It looks like a box. It looks like whatever." To me, that is innovative.
Do you agree with that, Brian? I mean,
I do.
It's amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You gotta
Absolutely
give him credit.
creative.
We want the future to look like the future, and it's kind of
Cool
what kind
car.
of truck would Blade Runner drive?
Yeah, I like
That was
Cybertruck.
the design idea.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
Elon,
Absolutely.
are you planning to remain CEO of Tesla while working with President Trump? Is there any thinking on your future at the company? As we're talking about Tesla, I'm wondering what your thinking is with leading the company going forward.
Yeah. I'm CEO of Tesla, and
He should.
yeah.
Any more plans
How
of
we get
additional
your
vehicles
thoughts on the
besides the
market?
ones you have now?
Well,
New
we got
models?
the Cybercab coming out next year.
The
which
one
is-
with no steering wheel. You're gonna buy one of
No,
those?
sir, I will not.
We'll pass. We're too old fashioned.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
sir.
Mr. President, when you look at the market selling off, that didn't concern you, and
Nope,
where do you see it
doesn't
going?
concern me. I think some people are going to make great deals by buying stocks and bonds and all the things they're buying. I think we're going to have an economy that's a real economy, not a fake economy. It was a fake economy. They were putting in all government jobs. You see what happened last month? We had more real jobs, and government jobs are way down. That's going to continue. Those are real jobs. Those are jobs that keep the country going. You can't have all government jobs. You have no income to pay the workers.
Yeah.
And a lot of those workers didn't show up to work. That was the other problem.
And President Trump, there's this protest leader from Columbia University that the administration is moving to deport. And he said that his arrest is going to be the first of many. How many?
I think we ought to get them all out of the country. They're troublemakers. They're agitators. They don't love our country. We ought to get them the hell out. I think that guy, we ought to get him. I heard his statements too. They were plenty bad. And I think we ought to get him the hell out of the country. I watched him. I watched tapes. Specifically, I watched tapes. And you can have them. Okay? You can have them. And you can have the rest of them. Let them go to school. Let them learn. Columbia used to be a good school. Now it's been overrun because of bad leadership. That's what happens. Happens to countries, and it happens to universities, and it happens to companies. And I don't want it to happen to a guy that did nothing wrong. He did everything right because he did a great company. But what he did by coming into government to help government from years of abuse, from decades of abuse, and you see that when you look at Social Security, where you have 200-year-old people on the rolls of society. That's just, he uses the word care. People don't care. Everyone knows that. But it's also, I believe it's also large fraud. I think it's that. But I think it's also large fraud.
And
So I'm just telling people, this man is a great patriot, and you should cherish him. You should cherish him. You know, I have a little statement. We have to take care of our high IQ people because we don't have too many of them.
So, Mr.
And
President,
we got to take care of them.
And as you
President,
guys
will you
look at
talk
the
to
Social
President
Security
Putin about-
Administration and you guys are looking for fraud and waste and abuse, can you guarantee people who are concerned about an interruption to benefits that there will not be?
Yes, we're going to be very careful with any interruption to benefits. In fact, only by tackling the waste and fraud in entitlements like Social Security, Medicare, can we actually preserve those programs for the future. Because with unchecked fraud and waste, we won't be able to afford them. The president's very dedicated to solving the budget deficit, which if we don't solve the budget deficit, we're going to go bankrupt as a country. If we go bankrupt as a country, there's no Social Security, there's no Medicare, there's no nothing. And to sort of echo what the president was saying, what really matters is moving people from jobs that are relatively low productivity in government to high productivity in the private sector, increasing the true output of products and services. That's the real economy. That's what actually enables Americans to have a higher standard of living. And that's what's happening. and that's, I think, you'll see the truth of that in the months to come.
And we're going to make it really much stronger by taking people that don't exist or taking people that shouldn't be there out, by taking illegal aliens that are on Social Security or Medicaid and Medicare, by taking them out. We're making it much stronger. The country will be much stronger, but it's going to really be stronger economically. And when you look at what we're doing, I've been called by so many companies. Yesterday, as you know, I had a meeting with some of the biggest tech companies in the world, and all they're talking about, IBM was there. We had a lot of them. Michael Dell was there. We had a lot of great companies, Hewlett Packard, and all they're talking about is investing in this country. They want to be sure, don't forget, they're looking down the road 10 years and 15 years. They want to make sure we have a strong country. They're all coming in. As you know, Apple, Tim Cook, he said that he's going to invest $500 billion in the United States. He never did that before. He invested in China. He's got his plants in China. And now he's got them, going to be building them in the United States. And if I didn't have victory in that election, he wouldn't be doing it. And if I didn't say what I'm saying, and I'm being very honest, and it's much more difficult than just sitting around and having a great time. It's a very glamorous position if you want to do that. We could have kept it, but eventually bad things would have happened. This way, good things. I'm very optimistic about the country. I think we're going to have the greatest markets we've ever had, and it's going to be really fueled by what we're doing. You had to see these companies yesterday. They're investing billions and trillions. They're investing trillions of dollars here. They wouldn't have invested 10 cents.
Mr. President, will you talk to Vladimir Putin about this ceasefire deal? Do you think you need to have a conversation with him to get the Russians to agree?
I'll talk to Vladimir Putin, yeah. I want to look, that's the other, it takes two to tango, as they say, right? So hopefully he'll also agree, and I really think that would be 75% of the way. The rest is getting it documented and, negotiating land positions, etc.
So you'll talk to him this week about the deal?
I think so, yeah.
So
and
you have a ceasefire in place on the Ukrainian side. How close do you think then you are to a total ceasefire with
Well, I hope it'll be over the next few days. I'd like to see. I know we have a big meeting with Russia tomorrow, and some great conversations hopefully will ensue. The people have done a great job. Marco Rubio's been great. Steve Witkoff's been great. Michael Waltz. Every one of them, they've really stepped up. They are into it. They want to see two things. By far, number one is death of people that aren't citizens of our country, but they're people, just like you. They're people, and we want to stop. And we also don't want to give billions and hundreds of billions of dollars away. We're in there for $350 billion, and there was no reason. This war would have never happened if I was president. So it's a very sad thing. Thank you all very much.
Elon.
I love Tesla.
Which one did you buy?
Yeah. Wait, Mr. President,
Which one did you buy?
Mr. President, which car are you going to buy?
The one I like is that one.
And how does this work?
And I want that same color.
Are you going to put down a credit card? Elon, would you take a personal check from the president?
I do it the old I give checks. Sure. I like checks.
I think his credit's good.
Do you still have access?
I like a check better than this modern system of all of a sudden there's money in your account, nobody knows. I like signing a check. But we're gonna pay, and I don't want a discount. He would give me a discount. But if I do a discount, they're going to say, "Oh, I got benefits." I don't want any discounts.
What about a vanity plate?
Yeah, let's see. Truth.
All right, there it is.
T-R-U-T-H.
Download his playlist.
That one got you by surprise.
Playlist gets downloaded as well. You can thump your music.
You can do it. I just looked at it. I looked at that dashboard. You can do anything.
Mr. President, do you buying a Tesla will boost Tesla sales and boost
Well, I
their
hope
stock?
it does. Look.
Was that your goal?
I care
by doing
about
this?
one thing. When somebody's a great patriot, they shouldn't be hurt. He's a great.
The question is, has anything like this ever been done in the White House? Ever? This is a free commercial for Tesla, in my opinion. This is like the highest. This is higher than Super Bowl. Okay, this is way more effective than buying an ad for Super Bowl halftime show. Because this is like 30 minutes with Tesla product behind the President of the United States, with the CEO of Tesla in the White House. Wow. But Tesla is an American product, so support this.
Patriot. He didn't know me from Adam until we met a little bit when I was in my first term, but he came out, he endorsed me very strongly, and I admired that, I respected that, and I respected him for years. I respected him. And when there was a chance to help our government, you're not going to use an average person. Some people say, well, let's use somebody that failed in business for his whole life. This guy has been amazing. And the kind of thinking is from a different age. It's really from a different age. When we said, let's cut 2%, he said, let's cut 60%. And he turned out to be right. And a lot of people are just not here. They don't work for us. I mean, they're getting checks and they don't work. And Peter, look, we have so many different stats and so many different figures. And it's so embarrassing to us as a country. No, we're going to have a streamlined country with good people. And one of the reasons, and I called for it wasn't a cabinet meeting, it was just a meeting of some cabinet members and Elon. The one thing, and I think he agrees with me 100%, it's one thing to cut, but we want to cut the wrong people, meaning we want to cut people that aren't doing the job. We want to keep the right people.
Absolutely.
And I said, I don't want to just say we're going to cut 50%. I want to cut the people that aren't doing the job, the people that aren't there, the people that are scamming the system. And he agrees with that 100%.
And are you sure you don't want to take a test drive?
I'd love to do it. Maybe I'll do it some other time.
Do you want Elon to keep working with you throughout your first term? I mean, is there going to be an end date for the two of you working together?
I don't know. I was thinking about that the other day. I think he'll know when it's time.
Okay.
Well, he doesn't want to stay around.
He has up to 130
Although
days,
I think he does like it. There's no place like the White House.
Elon, would you want to stay?
I don't think that. I think he wants to get the job done, get back to his businesses. That's what I think.
I just want to. I'll stay as long as it's useful and productive, and if I can help the country, I'll stay and do so.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, President Trump.
Thank you, President Trump. Good-looking guy. Elon. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Pulitzer Prize.
That's just out of this world. That is out of this world. What do you guys think about that clip we just saw? The world richest man alive financially, okay? And most people call him the greatest innovator of our time, which is Elon Musk, and the greatest president of our lifetime. Most people say he is, which is President Trump, together outside the White House. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that? I think it's celebrating greatness. A lot of people are going to say, especially the, Democrats, they're going to say, well, why is he always talking about Elon Musk? Why is he always Elon Musk, Elon Musk, Elon Musk? I get it. However, Elon is doing important work. On the other hand, personally, this is my opinion. I would say that I support Trump. However, I don't support everything he does. So, in the case of Elon Musk, I think he can do stuff with Elon Musk. He shouldn't just make it like every time. You know what I mean? Like, it could be once in a while. Like this right here, this isn't bad. But like, taking a flight in Air Force One constantly, it's like, okay. But Trump has a free heart. He's not thinking like that. It's just, being a good person, which is understandable. But, you got people have different opinions. Of like, why is he doing that? So you still got to govern and sort of kind of like keep the way things are supposed to be, because the commander-in-chief is supposed to be in the the most protected air flight or whatever, and then you have Elon Musk on there like constantly. It's like I don't really support that, but the president is the president, and I voted for him. Overall, is doing a great job. The border is secured. Okay, now Ukraine as agreed to a ceasefire deal. Now they have to get Russia on the same spot, but he's doing everything he says he's going to do. He's going to, do a little back and forth. He may fumble, I get it, but for the most part, he's getting everything he said it was going to get done. He's getting it done. Is literally getting it done. So this is what I voted for. I don't expect him to be 100% like perfect. He's gonna make mistakes.
Y'all gonna have to bench Elon. Elon is not gonna be long for this world as a major American political figure. I watched his interview with Fox. He said during the interview, I don't know why I have to do this. He's annoyed at the perch that he is on right now and the way he's being perceived. He's opened himself up to a level of scrutiny that I don't think that he's going to be able to bear. I don't think so.
Well, his companies are certainly having a hard time.
Well, listen, I don't think we're going to have to pass the hat for Elon Musk. The guy's worth $300 billion. Do the math. If he put his money in tax-free government bonds, he would get $15 billion a year without touching the principal. So these setbacks that people are so concerned about, I wouldn't worry about it.
Exactly.
I think it's patriotic what he's doing. I think that he's a disruptor. I think he is looking for fraud, corruption, and waste. And you know what? If we find fraud, corruption, and waste and we end it, then we have more money for hospitals. We have more money for education. We have more money for infrastructure.
Cool.
Is that a bad thing?
I'll tell you what
is that a bad thing?
Let me tell you what is actually doing that, but there's not a lot of evidence.
I'll tell you what is bad and what is not patriotic is calling Mark Kelly a traitor. He called him a traitor today for having gone and visited Ukraine, which many Republicans and Democrats in Congress and in the Senate have done in the last several years. Mark Kelly is a naval aviator. He flew missions in the Gulf War. He has logged over 5,000 hours flying for the Navy. He then went on to be the pilot for the space shuttle. He serves in Congress. Elon Musk has absolutely no right, who has never served this country, who serves a president who made up a story about bone spurs so he could avoid the draft, has absolutely no right to call Mark Kelly, who is a patriot, who has served this country to the point of risking his life, and calling him a traitor. That is something we should all condemn.
I don't like that kind of language from either side, and it's gotten out of hand. I think that the discourse now...
I've had to do this a lot of times on the show, but I guess it's very easy to say either side to every single thing, but in response to what she said, what do you say about what Elon has to say?
Well, first of all, I would never denigrate somebody who served our country and call them a traitor unless I had material evidence that they were actually a traitor. So I think that Elon Musk is not a politician. He's not somebody that is what we would say politically astute, but I think he serves a great purpose in uncovering fraud, corruption, and waste, and I think it's a patriotic act on his part.
Look, I spent 5 years in City Hall working on government efficiency projects, and here's my advice for Elon. It's one thing to talk about efficiency, but what people actually care about, as you know, sir, as a local official, they care about efficacy. So if you look on the Doge board, it just shows how much they're cutting from the federal government. How about a board that shows how long passport times are taking, that shows how quickly people in the Veterans Affairs are getting their benefits? That's what people actually care about. And if he does that board and shows that he's making progress on that, that's showing that government is actually working for people. I think everyone here can get behind that.
Scott?
I think on the entitlement issue, which you played, the president is in charge. He has made it perfectly clear he is not touching Social Security, Medicare, and even Medicaid, other than to say if there is fraud in any program, he'd like to root out the fraud. That's period. He's the president. The buck stops with the president. He's been clear about that since he started running in 2015.
I mean, Republicans are getting ready to cut a lot from Medicare.
Well, you call it cuts. They're calling it could be slowing the growth of the program or rooting out fraud, but that's different than cuts.
Well, here's the reason I have a lot
$800 million worth of fraud.
Yeah, and I have a lot of reason to doubt what you're saying because
let me tell you something. There's a huge able-bodied population in this country that should not be on welfare.
Get him, Scott. Get him, Scott.
Get
him.
Get him, Scott. Welfare is not the biggest driver of this, actually. But what I'm saying is that Doge has put all this money on the board, and they've said, oh, this is waste, fraud, and abuse. And when you really look at it, they're just programs that Elon and the president and random 20-something-year-olds don't like. So when you say fraud and abuse,
No.
there's not a lot of evidence.
The first word is usually waste, and they consider it to be waste.
Do you think
They are not actually doing that. When Congress authorizes money for a program or a program is duly authorized, that's not waste, fraud, and abuse. That's just something you don't like.
Abby, everybody wants to find waste, fraud, and abuse until somebody actually does it.
Do you think people...
This is the problem. This is the problem. They're actually saying, okay, maybe this is wasteful.
Hold on for a second.
And then Washington goes crazy.
That's untrue. It's been done. The Clinton administration was able to put together an
30-something years ago?
Right, but the point of it is the way that
never happened, and it definitely
it's been done. But the way that they went about it was to study it for 6 months and then to take a longer time to understand which government jobs needed to be rooted out. He fired a bunch of people. He ended with a budget. It's been done. It's just the way that you guys are doing it.
I know. And the way that we're doing it is that you don't want us to do it. In 2019, we spent $4.4 trillion as a government. Last year, we spent $6.2 trillion. The government's gotten more expensive and much larger over the last 5 years. The only question Republicans have is, does it have to be this large and does it have to be this expensive? That's the question. And Elon's finally trying to cut into it, and the Republicans in Congress need to help.
Well, you guys should start in your own house because your president drove up the deficit as much as anybody ever has, maybe more than anyone.
And why? What happened at the end of Trump? Any memory of it?
I do remember. Even before then, though. Even before that, though. Everybody's got Google. So the reality of it is this. If no one that I know is against finding waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. However, the way that you go about doing it, you don't play with Americans' lives, you don't play with their jobs, you don't do things haphazardly where you have to fire people, then
Can you name one thing you do differently?
One thing I do differently?
You say
so now you're going to make me in charge of those.
No, I'm asking.
Okay.
You say you're against waste, fraud, and abuse. What would you consider the government to do that's wasteful today?
Okay, well then what I would do if I was looking for waste, fraud, and abuse is I would start in the Defense Department and at the Pentagon. I would start with the defense industrial complex of America, and I would look there.
I think Elon and you were in agreement on that.
Well, he hasn't. The question is, when are they going to get around to it?
Because they're starting off with firing
park rangers.
But hold on. One of the other things, you started your comment by saying the president's in charge. He's not going to touch Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. That's where all the money is, Scott, which is why
we're fighting over 28%.
He said he wasn't going to cut entitlements.
No.
They are going to look for fraud in Medicaid.
Bruce,
they are going to look for
I'm telling you what Scott said. Scott said that he wasn't going to touch it. Elon said, correctly, that's where all the money is. So if you guys actually want to produce savings, you are going to have to touch it.
Actually, we started this segment talking about the fact that the president's closest aide, the guy who's attached at the hip to him, Elon Musk, called an American hero a traitor today.
Okay, but you said that already.
No, because you haven't condemned it.
What does that got to do with
Because that's what this segment was about, actually, and you haven't condemned it. Because you want to talk about something else instead of condemning what is condemnable.
I will say that Bruce did, well, maybe I shouldn't go so far as to say condemn, but you said that you do not condone that kind of language.
Bruce basically said chill.
So he did say that. But
let's talk what this is actually doing. I think the people who are paid to ID bodies of people killed in action who can't work right now are not waste, fraud, and abuse. I think that these kind of things that we're seeing, the people who oversee our nuclear stockpile are not waste, fraud, and abuse. These mistakes can't happen. It's too critical to our country.
The veterans who we promised we would protect.
We will never spend, unless some administration has the guts to see this through, we will never ever spend less. We will never have a smaller government.
I take
everything
your point,
has a constituency in Washington.
I take your point about finding the spending that you want to cut, but I think there's no question, even Republicans agree, and we talked about this last week, this has been done in a haphazard way to the point where the president himself had to hear it from his cabinet secretaries who were asking, what's happening at the VA? Why are you cutting all these people? The transportation secretary said they were trying to cut air traffic controllers.
I hope the cabinet and Elon
they had to speak up
work well together. The cabinet just got there.
Well.
But ultimately, this is not a conversation that can be put off forever. And I feel like this is what Washington does. They try to just push it back as far as they can, and then we'll get the next guy in, and maybe it won't happen. That's how you go from $4.5 trillion to $6.2 trillion.
Even Republicans have begun saying that it needs to be a scalpel, not a sledgehammer.
Yes,
and it has been a sledgehammer.
Don't let that guy rest. Elon Musk has gone through a lot. They ain't gonna let him rest. Nope. All right, Canada and the United States have been going back and forth. Canada and the United States has been going back and forth when it comes to tariffs. Okay, so I guess it's a trade war. However, Trump has said, like we all just heard in the press conference he had about Tesla in the White House, is that the tariffs from Canada when it comes to electricity is not going to actually happen. So, but I want you guys to listen to this right here.
It's a response to Ontario, the province of Ontario placing a 25% surcharge on electricity coming into 3 U.S. neighboring states. And joining us now, the Ontario Premier, Doug Ford. Premier Ford, thanks so much for joining us. First of all, what's your reaction when you heard this latest news?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Wolf. And it's disappointing, and I'll tell you the reason it's disappointing, because Americans are going to pay more. They only have the capacity, the U.S. only has the capacity of producing 16% of the aluminum they need. Pretty well almost the balance comes over 60% comes from Quebec. So costs are going to go up along with aluminum and steel. Let's focus on the real problem, and that's China. You know, bringing transshipments in and costing American and Canadian jobs. I want to make sure that we send more electricity. Well, if I want to send more critical minerals, but there was an unprovoked attack on Canada, on families, on jobs, on businesses. For what reason? You know, the market's speaking loud and clear. Consumer confidence is down. The market's tumbling. You know, there's going to be plants closed in the U.S. Assembly plants will shut down because they won't have the aluminum, or they'll be paying 3 times as much. This is absolute chaos created by one person, and that's Donald Trump, not the American people. I always say Canadians love Americans. I love Americans, and this has to stop. Let's sit around the table and negotiate a new deal, even though he created the deal in the first place.
Yeah, and as someone who grew up in Western New York and Buffalo along the border with Canada, I can honestly say I love Canadians as well. Talk a little bit about Ontario, your province, and the electrical power it shares with the states in the United States along the border. A lot of it is coming from Ontario, right?
That's correct. We power 1.5 million homes and businesses in New York and Michigan and in Minnesota. I just got off the phone with Governor Whitmer. I consider her a friend. We worked together for 7 years. She's a wonderful person, and I apologize to her. She understands. But what I recommend is on the electricity bill, put down this increase is a tariff from Trump. It's a Trump tariff, which is basically a Trump tax.
As you know, you've called this an unprovoked trade and tariff war initiated by the United States against Canada. Trump is saying that Canada pays very little for national security and relies on the U.S. for military protection. What's your response to him on that issue?
I agree that we have to meet our 2% commitment, our NATO commitment. I've said it for years. Other premiers all signed agreements sending it to the federal government. We spend 1.4% on defense. It needs to go up to 2%. We have to pitch in our share. 100% I agree on the 2%.
Yeah, that's what he's been saying now for the last several years. The NATO allies have to increase their spending to come up to what the U.S. percentage of military spending is. His latest Truth Social post earlier today, Premier, also doubled down on Trump's desire for Canada to become the 51st state of the United States, saying the brilliant "O Canada" anthem will continue to play. How do Canadians feel about what the President Trump is saying about Canada becoming part of the United States and even allowing "O Canada," a beautiful national anthem, to continue playing?
Well, obviously, the Canadians are infuriated, and what it's done, it's united the whole country, and the patriotism is running wild across the country. The likes I've never seen before in my entire life. We'll never become the 51st state. Canada is not for sale, and we want a great trading partner. We had the greatest neighbors in the world, the U.S., and it's not the American people. They didn't vote President Trump in on this type of mandate. He had a mandate to lower inflation, lower cost of living, create more jobs, and it's backfired on him. Inflation's going up. Jobs will be lost. He's taking more money out of Americans' pockets. For what reason? We're still trying to figure this out. Let's sit down at the table and negotiate this deal. If there's things he doesn't like, then we sit down and we have a conversation. But just going tit for tat back and forth, all it does is hurt Americans and Canadians. It's unacceptable.
Before I let you go, Premier, I want to ask one final question. Trump is calling on Canada to drop its tariff on dairy products. Is this a realistic request?
Well, it's one of the items that obviously it gets under his skin. Let's sit down and talk about it. That is as simple as that. Let's renegotiate the USMCA. Let's stop the bleeding on both sides of the border as China's sitting there laughing at both countries. Let's sit down and negotiate a fair trade for both countries, and everyone benefits.
Yeah, it's amazing what's going on. Hard to believe. As a kid growing up in Buffalo, New York, along the border with Canada, whenever I would go to a Buffalo Sabres hockey game, they'd always play the U.S. national anthem, but they would always play "O Canada" as well, because so many of the hockey players, almost all of them, were Canadians. And I just remember that as a kid growing up. Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, thanks very much for joining us.
We thought it would help to give a bit of a debrief, catch you up. President Trump started his tariff tango with Mexico, Canada, and China on January 31st. He paused it 3 days later for 1 month. The next day, China tariffs took effect. Canada and Mexico followed in March, but just a day after those tariffs took effect, the president announced a carve-out for automakers. A day after that, a 1-month delay for other products. On March 7th, he threatened reciprocal tariffs on Canadian dairy and lumber. That brings us to the announcement that we have been telling you about this morning on steel and aluminum. Okay, digest all that for a second, and now we're going to get an explanation and the ramifications politically from our talented group of reporters here, Sabrina Rodriguez of The Washington Post, CNN's David Chalian, and CNN's Jeff Zeleny. You catch all that?
This man is moving so fast that it's hard to actually think he's doing the right thing in the eyes of the Democrats. Okay, the Democrats are looking at him like, he's moving too fast. He's moving too fast. This is like what a Democrat president would do in 8 years. Everything he's done in 51 days is what a Democrat president would do for 8 years. Maybe less. But this man is unstoppable, yo.
Wow. David Chalian, I'm going to start with you because it is confusing. It is uncertain. It is trademark Donald Trump to govern by chaos, as we've said time and time again. But it is also trademark Donald Trump to care about the markets.
Well, I think that's why
I mean, think about it. If Canada wants to come to the table to negotiate the deal with USMCA deal with the United States, how are you even going to negotiate like a big dog? It's hard because you're coming to the table with a partner that is telling you to come be the 51st state. Oh my God. You're coming to the table with a partner you know wants you to be the 51st state of their own country. So how are you going to negotiate? You are already beaten before you go to the table, Canadians. But let's see how it plays out, okay? All of this is the art of the deal. In my opinion, this is what Trump is doing, is attacking a lot of people at the same time and making a lot of deals at the same time. This is the biggest game in history. This is like, this right here, this is for OGs, okay? If you cannot play on this level, it's hard, okay? This is what Trump has been doing for years. Playing with the toughest players all his life. So he knows. I mean, think about it. He's negotiating the ceasefire deal between Ukraine and Russia. He's still talking about tariffs between Canada, Mexico, China. Still talking about Greenland. Still talking about the border. Still talking about the economy. Like he's doing everything at the same time. Getting men out of women's sports. He's doing a lot at the same time. So it's like, how? Yes, it's called speed. Okay? To win, you actually need speed. People think you need to slow and steady wins the race. Actually, speed wins the race. You think an airplane can actually fly if it goes slow? No, it has to go fast. You need momentum to fly. And that's what Trump needs. All of this is the art of the deal, okay? This is the art of the deal. Be patient. It's been 51 days. Be patient, okay? And just wait. Be patient and watch greatness happen.
Saw some of that whiplash.
Yeah.
Some of that was in response to the markets, right? Not just to inject chaos for chaos's sake. I know he told reporters last week he doesn't watch the markets. I just,
And there's a bridge he can buy.
Exactly. There's absolutely no truth to that. And, he's going later to talk to the Business Roundtable. And, he is clearly getting a lot of input, not just from Republicans on Capitol Hill, but from a lot of the high dollar donor business people, the business community. These folks have inputs into Donald Trump. And I've talked to some Wall Street folks, both supporters of the president and not supporters of the president, all of whom work for these big banks and financial institutions, who say that there's a mood shift right now, and there's real concern in the marketplace. I mean, we see it obviously in what the Dow is doing, but there's a real concern that there is not a long-term plan here.
Yeah, and because you mentioned that, I do want to put up on the screen, the Business Roundtable is a very large group of the CEOs from around the world. What we're putting up on the screen are the CEOs who are on the board. Those are the companies that they represent. We don't know if all of the CEOs from all those companies are going to be there, but presumably a lot of them will be there. That's a meeting about 5 hours from now.
I mean, the reality is that Trump, it's unclear what exactly Trump can say to make them feel better, because we've seen Trump in interview after interview in recent days say, brace for a little bit of turbulence. He said a little turbulence in his address to Congress last week. He said in an interview with Fox News that this is a period of transition. So companies just want to know right now, what can they plan for? And the problem with his haphazard approach to...
I don't know, man. Y'all don't understand. The fact that the world is literally looking at Trump, waiting for him to type something on Truth Social or on X, waiting for him to say something so they can know what to do, how to retaliate, how to go about negotiating with Trump. The whole world, everybody, Russia, Ukraine, European Union, everybody. This is a very different precedent than the first one we saw in 2016. This is different. He's not coming to play games this time. He's been to Washington, D.C. before. This is his second time, and he's taking it really seriously.
Tariffs at the moment is, okay, you give an exemption for 1 month. Businesses can't make decisions off of 1 month from now. They want to know if, okay, but is it going to come off in 6 months? Are you going to keep it in place? What is the long-term plan? And the Trump administration is not giving clear answers about that. Instead, they're playing a blame game where we hear officials saying, this is a residual from the Biden administration. But we're going to hear a lot of CEOs today ask the question, okay, what are the specifics you can give us? And I think there's a question of what can he actually offer?
You set me up perfectly for this quote from Art Hogan, who's the chief market strategist for a wealth management company. Here's what he said to CNN earlier today. This market is just blatantly sick and tired of the back and forth on trade policy. It feels as though the administration continues to move the goalposts. With that much uncertainty, it's impossible for investors to have any confidence, Jeff.
Look, and that sums it up right there. And the reality here is we've also seen something different over the last couple of days. The president has not spoken. Now, in other presidents, it's not unusual to go a day without speaking
Such a good point.
in front of the cameras, but in this president it is. We watched all day long yesterday. The advisors were saying, oh, he's likely to speak at various events, did not speak at all. So far today, the only time he's scheduled to speak is after the markets close. However, his words are sending shockwaves once again to the market. So it's that uncertainty that we've been talking about. But now there is a question of a narrative setting in. Talking to Republican, largely supporters of the president on Wall Street this morning, a couple asked, is he trying to intentionally spark a recession to bring down interest rates? Now, those are actual questions being asked. I would be, that's very risky, and I doubt that's the case. But in the absence of sort of words from officials,
see how complicated they have to explain his or their assumed strategy that he's implementing. They're just thinking maybe he's trying to cause a recession so he can bring down the interest rate. Or maybe he's trying to, or maybe. This is how smart the commander-in-chief is, that analysts or journalists or creators or whatever can start thinking like, what is he thinking about? Oh, let me see. Nobody was talking like this when it comes to Joe Biden. Oh, maybe he wants to spark this to cause that. No, it wasn't that smart. He wasn't that smart. Biden wasn't that smart.
We did not see his top economic advisors on the morning shows or anything at all today. So that's what's also so unusual about this communication strategy. But for a president who loves to talk about records, ones that are true and ones that are fabricated, this is a record that he did not want. The record yesterday of the worst day on Wall Street, and it could be repeated today. So that is what is so interesting about this policy. And never mind if we sort of place it in the context in which we are, the spending bill is happening on the Hill, the government is being sort of shrunk. It's all of this. It's contributing to this sort of sense of unease that I was thinking back to the night before he was inaugurated. He was at a rally at Capital One Arena, and he talked about, he said, we're going to call it the Trump effect. The stock market has surged since I've been elected. Let's call it the Trump effect. And now
it did.
It is the Trump effect.
It did.
It's just that it's been all wiped out.
It's got been, and then some.
Weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would just note one other thing about the absence of Trump yesterday, which I think makes it even more fascinating. He chose not to speak on a day where obviously everyone was waiting to hear from him, but also on a day where the one administration voice that was speaking was Elon Musk on Fox News. And Donald Trump's aware of that too. So he also knew that by choosing not to speak, he understood what voice would be out there. And I thought that that was an interesting decision.
All right, let's get the reaction from Canada to President Trump's latest tariff threat. Let's bring in our Paula Newton from Ottawa. So Paula, I mean, Canada is in a state of political transition. It was just on Sunday, like literally 2 days ago, that Mark Carney was elected. I mean, I don't even believe he's actually technically, correct me if I'm wrong, been sworn in yet, but he's getting...
All right, Bernie Sanders. Of
course. Now, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Of course, Elon Musk is the problem. Before, he used to be Trump. Trump was the problem for every Democrat. Now, it's now Trump and Elon Musk. All right.
Independent from Vermont, who caucuses with the Democrats. Senator Sanders, thanks very much for joining us. Do you think there'll be a recession?
Got me, but I think there is so much chaos in the world right now created by we have a trade war with our two neighbors, Canada and Mexico. You have the President of the United States wanting to take over the Panama Canal, take over Greenland, God knows what else. We are laying off, Mr. Musk is now laying off or proposing to lay off hundreds of thousands of federal employees. What will that mean to the Veterans Administration? What will that mean to Social Security? What will that mean in terms of unemployment? So I think all of those questions creates a lot of economic uncertainty.
President Trump has said many times on the campaign trail that he would not touch entitlements like Social Security or Medicare, which I know are priorities for you. Elon Musk, however, seems to be leaning in the other direction. I want to play something he said in an interview today to Fox Business.
The way support in entitlement spending, which is which is most of the federal spending is entitlements. That's like the big one to eliminate, because that's the sort of $500 billion, maybe $700 billion a year. That is also a mechanism by which the Democrats attract and retain illegal immigrants. by essentially paying them to come here and then turning them into voters.
So, I mean, what do you make of his desire to cut entitlements? He says he wants to go after waste and fraud, and the reason you just heard him use.
Well, he has called Social Security a Ponzi scheme. They have already laid off 2,500 employees of the Social Security Administration. Anderson, I think I speak for probably every member of the Senate in that the calls that we get in large numbers are people who are saying, I'm trying to get a hold of Social Security, I got a disability issue. I can't get a hold of anybody. And the reason is the Social Security Administration today is understaffed. There are estimates out there that tens of thousands of people with disabilities die while they're waiting for those benefits to come to fruition. They apply, they're waiting. And now if you do, as Musk and others are proposing, not only 2,500 Social Security employees, they want to cut half of the Social Security employees. That will be a disaster. That will mean that millions of people who will, calling up, they're not going to get an answer. So if you ask me, I think this is a prelude not only to cutting benefits, but to privatizing Social Security itself. I think that's in the back of their mind. If you make the system dysfunctional, why would anybody want to support it? And that's consistent with what Trump said in his State of the Union address. Oh, there are millions of people, thousands of people, 200 years old and 150 years old. What is all of that about? It happens to be a lie. It's not true. 99% of the benefits go to people, more than that go to people who have paid into them. So why do you lie so much about Social Security? Why do you make it look like it's a broken, dysfunctional system? The reason is to get people to lose faith in the system, and then you can give it over to Wall Street. That's my view.
Is there any way to get more transparency about what Elon Musk is doing? I mean, the only thing like the public sees besides his posts on X are this so-called wall of receipts. And, CNN, the New York Times, David Fahrenthold of the Times has looked at the numbers that are being posted for the alleged savings that they're making. And a lot of them are phony. I mean, $8 billion contract for ICE canceled turned out to be an $8 million contract.
Well, I mean, two things. I am the ranking member, leader of the opposition on the HELP Committee, Health, Education, Labor. And I have requested of Senator Cassidy the chance to hear him answer questions from members of the United States Senate. I will tell you, Anderson, just this last weekend, I was in Wisconsin and Michigan. We had, whole lots of people, far more people showing up than I had anticipated. We had 9,000 people in Warren, Michigan. And people are angry. They're confused. They see the richest guy in the world going around saying, hey, we're going to decimate the Veterans Administration. We're going to decimate Social Security. We're going to be laying off people.
Now, I'm not going to cap. Bernie has supporters, loyal supporters. Bernie Sanders, by himself, not affiliated with anybody, just Bernie Sanders. Of course, he has, donors and sponsors. I'm not saying that. I'm saying just Bernie Sanders. A lot of people resonate with what he says, and he has supporters for sure.
Here and there and everywhere, and people saying, what is going on? So the idea...
Now, obviously, nothing close to the MAGA supporters, Make America Great Again supporters. Nothing is close to that. That is like the greatest political movement probably in history.
That we have oligarchs, people with incredible wealth.
That's Bernie's favorite word, oligarchs.
Trashing programs that working people desperately need is, I think, unacceptable to the vast majority of the American people. Now, they're going after Social Security. They're going after Veterans Administration. And obviously, in their so-called reconciliation bill, they want to give huge tax breaks, over $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1%. And they pay for that by cutting Medicaid by some $800 billion and cutting nutrition programs for children by a couple of $100 billion. So I think the American people are saying, you know what? We're struggling enough right now. 60% living paycheck to paycheck. Don't give tax breaks to billionaires. Cut programs to working people. Don't go after Social Security. Don't go after the Veterans Administration and the men and women who put their lives on the line to defend us.
Do you see America moving to a kleptocracy where, you know, people have loyalty oaths if you want to get a job in the civil service, where, you know, pay money, you get access?
Well, look, you got, you know, during Trump's inaugural, as you know, the three richest guys in the country, Musk, Bezos, and Zuckerberg were there, and right behind them were 13 other billionaires who Trump had nominated to head major government agencies. So I would say, without any doubt, that you have a government right now. You know, Lincoln talked about a government of the people, by the people, for the people. I think it's fair to say you have a government today of the billionaires, by the billionaires, and for the billionaires.
And before I let you go, I just want to ask you, Elon Musk, was something Elon Musk said today about your colleague, Senator Mark Kelly, after Senator Kelly posted on X about a trip he'd made to Ukraine over the weekend. Musk commented, "You are a traitor."
I mean, it's disgusting. It is absolutely. This, by the way, Kelly is a military guy, serves his country, went to Ukraine to get a sense of how the Ukrainian people are responding to Trump's betrayal of the country, if you like. And you have Musk talking about Mark Kelly as a traitor. I mean, it is really unspeakable. It really is. And I think the American people are sick and tired of the wealthiest guy in the world running the United States government and calling, in this case, a guy who put his life on the line to defend us a traitor. That's beyond the pale.
Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you for your time tonight.
A double whammy for Elon Musk today. First, his social media site X went down for hours. The company's investigating what happened. But Musk blames it on a cyber attack that he claims originated in the Ukraine area. Even more painful, the pockets of the world's richest man have gotten a little bit lighter. Bloomberg reports the Musk's net worth has dropped $148 billion just since December. Why? All you have to do is look at the stock performance of his company, Tesla. It has lost nearly all of the gains it made after Election Day. In fact, Tesla stock dropped 15% just today, mind you. And the electric automaker is also the popular punching bag for people who are furious about Doge. Over the weekend, protesters forming a human chain outside a Tesla showroom in New York. Tesla charging stations burned in suburban Boston.
Why are these people like this? So this is your way to show that you're angry. This is out to show that you're not happy with Trump's decision. I mean, and burning stuff down, causing problems. Paid protesters. That's what I see, right? These are paid people literally causing damage and this crazy stuff. This isn't like peaceful protesting. This is back to 2020.
Investigators are calling the fires suspicious based on the evidence at the scene. And outside Portland, Oregon, police believe someone shot at a Tesla dealership, damaging cars and shattering windows. Is all the bad publicity giving Musk pause?
You giving up your other stuff? I mean, how are you running your other businesses?
With great difficulty. Yeah, I mean.
But there's no turning back, you're saying?
I'm just here trying to make government more efficient.
Joining me now, investor and longtime Tesla shareholder, Ross Gerber. He's the co-founder, president, and CEO of Gerber Kawasaki Wealth and Investment Management. Ross, thank you for joining. I mean, you've heard the reaction from Elon Musk. We've seen the protests at Tesla, the stock plunge. Is he doing permanent damage to the Tesla brand, or will this blowback let up?
Well, at this point, I think it's fairly clear that it's a pretty deep amount of damage, and how permanent it is still yet to be determined. But, you know, I've been warning about this for a long time now, well over a year. And as his roles have changed more and more in government and in politics and his opinions, it's had a bigger and bigger cost to Tesla. And it's really, really sad as a supporter of Tesla for so long and a believer in Tesla's mission to see it subverted by its own CEO into a political tool where people are actually protesting against a company that's critically important for climate change. It's crushing. So it just gives you an idea of how bad of a board of directors Tesla's board of.
Exactly. This guy has a car company that is literally helping the environment. And Dems, they always talk about climate change. And yet, this guy is the CEO of Tesla. And Dems are breaking Tesla cars, burning Tesla charging station. This is supposed to be the car that's supposed to save your precious world. This car that you're burning down, this is the car that's supposed to save your precious world, your precious ozone layer. But you burn it down. You want to boycott Tesla to buy what? Toyota?
Federal workers are in a D.C. courtroom now urging a judge to stop the White House from shuttering the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Already, DOJ has hollowed it out. Employees were sent home and basically told to stop working. Its former director, who was fired by Donald Trump, says doing that, hollowing out the Consumer Protection Board, puts Americans with mortgages, with student loans, medical.
Yeah, we seen that one yesterday. Now, this lady right here, Jasmine Crockett, I said she's going to be a huge star in the Democrat Party. Just watch. This lady right here, she's about to come on here. Jasmine Crockett, she's going to be a star in the Democrat Party. She is a typical Democrat lady. Listen.
All right, let's discuss all the breaking news up on Capitol Hill with Congressman Tony Gonzalez. He's a Texas Republican congressman. Thanks so much for joining us. I know, like all of us, you just heard the House Speaker Mike Johnson place the blame on Democrats for the potential of a government shutdown should today's spending bill fail to pass. The clock is clearly ticking. First, there's still a question if Johnson has enough Republican votes. Do you plan to vote, first of all, in support of this spending bill, this CR, this continuing resolution?
Yeah, good morning, Wolf, and thank you for having me. There is not a lawmaker up here that likes CRs. All of us have voted against them. All of us have voted for them at different periods. But governing is messy. And what I appreciate about President Trump is his willingness to listen to members of Congress and work towards a solution. There were two things in particular that I was advocating for. You know, I spent 20 years in the military. I retired a Navy Master Chief. One of those in this bill is the largest pay increase for junior enlisted service members, E1 through E5, in the history of our nation. It's long time we get our service members off food stamps. This bill is going to do that. Another thing that I'd have advocated for was increased funding for border security. And just when the administration is getting going, I think now's not the time to pull the rug from underneath the administration. I was able to fly on Air Force 2 with the vice president to the border this past week and saw firsthand the vice president is very influential in allowing people to understand what the administration is trying to do. For those reasons, I do plan to vote in favor of this CR and to keep the ball rolling. There's a lot more discussions that need to be had, but I think it's a positive direction that the administration is going in.
There's a question about some of your Republican colleagues who are planning on voting against it, for example, Thomas Massie. And you heard President Trump now threaten to go after him, this Republican congressman, if he votes against this continuing resolution. Are you hearing from your Republican colleagues in the House that are concerned if they vote against the CR, the continuing resolution, the president will go after them and seek to primary them in the upcoming midterm elections?
No, I think it's less of that. Look, members were elected to represent their districts, and that's exactly what we do. In the same breath, President Trump, in just a very short period of time, his policies are working. And now is not the time to cut funding. Now is the time to make sure that they have all the resources they need. Now, Congress should have we're an equal branch of government. We need to have a seat at the table. And I think it's a positive thing to have this dialogue, to have this back and forth. But I also think it's important to the American people. We need to deliver. Enough with the talk, enough with the blame game. We need to deliver for the American people. President Trump is doing that. Congress needs to come alongside and make sure it's constructive, that we're having a dialogue and making sure that we are indeed getting that agenda done.
All right, let's get some Democratic reaction to all the things that are unfolding up on Capitol Hill. Democratic Congressman Jasmine Crockett of Texas is joining us here in the Situation Room. Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us. You heard the House Speaker. I assume you heard what he said. He's basically blaming the Democrats, people like you, if this continuing resolution is defeated in the House later today.
Listen, he can't blame me for not wanting to be his doormat or for the Democrats not wanting to be their doormat. I mean, all we consistently hear from them is they have this mandate that the American people gave them. Well, I am saying that I have a mandate from my district, and it does not involve cutting Medicaid, cutting Medicare. And if we're going to just focus on this continuing resolution, let's talk about it, because I know you just talked to my other colleague from Texas, and he was boasting about the increase in pay for certain service members while not talking about the fact that those that have already served our country, our veterans, that they're going to lose so much of their care. We know that right now they're looking to cut close to 80,000 people from the Veterans Affairs. And then in addition to that, in this CR, all the money for bills that we've passed before, specifically that extra money that we put in for the toxic burn pits, they want to take that out. So it should not be a either or when it comes to those that have served our country or those that are willing to serve our country. And right now they're pitting them against one another. We see as they've decided they're not going to do any more town halls. So I don't know if Tony even knows what his constituents want, that they are consistently getting railed against because of the way that they're treating veterans by making sure that these firings, they're not standing up for the people. They're not standing up for the House. So no, I'm not going to vote for the continuing resolution. The Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. If they want to get their draconian stuff passed that's going to hurt my constituents, they're going to do it by themselves.
And what's very worrisome is that so many veterans who
told y'all, this lady right here, Crockett, she's going to be a massive, huge star in the Democrat Party. And she may even convert to be a Republican because she's a star. In the next 5-10 years, don't be surprised.
Work in federal government agencies are now being fired for various reasons as a result.
Approximately 1/3 of our workforce for the federal government, they're veterans.
Veterans, and we want to make sure those veterans are protected by all means. Clip of what we heard from the House Speaker and get your reaction. So listen to this.
They're planning to vote down this simple bill. They are going to try to shut the government down. Every House Democrat will participate in this. It looks like that would be a shame if it's true. I hope some of them will have a moment of clarity themselves and do the right thing, but it looks like they're going to try to shut down the government. It's a striking new posture for Democrats who have always said they've just been apoplectic about the prospect of government shutdowns.
You want to react?
Yeah, I'm going to say that we don't want the government to shut down. And frankly, this president has single-handedly not just been shutting the government down, but literally trying to dismantle it. And I haven't heard a word out of them. In addition to that, we know that we have been talking about impoundment, which is basically saying, hey, the power of the purse belongs to Congress. Well, guess what? Our speaker doesn't act that way. He doesn't get out there and say, hey, Mr. President, you can't do this. Once we've appropriated dollars, then these dollars are supposed to be for this. And one of the things that they're not talking about in this continuing resolution is the fact that they are going to give even more latitude. This is basically going to be a slush fund for Elon and Donald Trump. They are getting rid of the parameters around the spending. I think the comparison was that we have maybe 88 total pages of kind of whatever the parameters are for how the monies are to be spent, but the majority of the discretion goes.
Everybody talking about Genesis is saying Tesla is the only EV brand in the world. No, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. It's not the only EV brand in the United States, okay? But Tesla is the largest EV brand in the world, highest selling, okay? You can argue, and I see somebody named 5. They went on Google, they checked hard, they looked on Bing, and they checked everywhere to finally find 5 brands that are EV, okay? And they've never seen those cars on the road. You've never seen any other fully EV car on the road that is not hybrid, full EV. And even if you have, you don't know their names. Okay, so just give Tesla and Elon Musk their flowers, okay? And enjoy the American company that happens to have the largest EV sales in the world. Jesus.
Goes to Trump and Elon, when we normally had, I think in our last one, typically we have about 2,800 pages.
We know there are a handful potentially, of Republican House members who are going to vote against the continuing resolution, and that could torpedo it. But do you see a bunch of your fellow Democrats voting for it to keep the government open?
Not that I've heard. And you know what? It's interesting that the speaker knows how to call out my colleagues, but this is their bill. So why not call out your own colleagues, the ones that elected you to be their speaker? Listen, Nancy Pelosi didn't have these problems. So if they need some help, maybe you should tune into a woman, because maybe it just takes a woman to get it done.
Like you, is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
But you're going to vote against the continuing?
I'm going to vote against it. Now, if they want to decide that they're going to start negotiating in good faith, remember our last continuing.
As a matter of fact, I'll just put it on the record right here, right now, this morning. She is a better candidate, or she would have been a better candidate than Kamala Harris. If Crockett was the person that the Democrat brought forward, she would have done better than, word salad Kamala Harris. But I won't be surprised if something really huge comes up for her, because she's climbing the ladder real fast.
Continuing resolution, remember, it was sunk because Elon decided to go on Twitter, and at this point in time he had never graced the Oval Office. And so if this is how they want to govern, then you're going to have to get your own house in order. But you can't come to us and just say, here, take it, and we're supposed to say, yes, thank you so much for making a.
And y'all talking about like Toyota, Hyundai, Ford, Chevy, Dodge, like all of this. I get it. Okay, they have EV cars, but the reason they have EV cars is because they saw Tesla. Tesla didn't start with hybrid, or no, it's full electric car, and everybody was like, "Oh, it actually works. All right, let's do it." Tesla started all of this stuff. Now, I'm not saying like they started electric cars, but they made it mainstream.
Let's take it. That is not why we were elected. And we want the American people to see that these people cannot function. Wolf, you've been talking about a stopgap. Everybody's talking about a stopgap.
The continuing resolution.
The continuing resolution. But it's not a stopgap, right? Because for everyone at home, just know that our bills, when we do appropriations, they are for 1 year, right? And they go from September to September. This isn't a stopgap. They've not been able to pass their own appropriations bills out of the House in the entire year. And so now they want to do this all the way to September. They never would have passed appropriations.
I took notes of what the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, was saying, and he said this continuing resolution that's going to come up for a vote later today, which you will oppose, contains, he says, no cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security.
Yeah, so it is interesting that obviously we passed the budget resolution, or they passed the budget resolution that is going to require them to go into these cuts, but they've not got their single bills passed. We've got 12 specific kind of categories. And so for everybody at home, when you think about it, when you're paying your bills, you've got your electricity, you've got your house note, you've got that. So that's what we do. We have 12 separate bills, and they've not been able to pass those 12 individual bills. And in those, that is where they are prescribing for the cuts to those specific programs. Now in this, they are prescribing other cuts, such as they want to get rid of money that was in the Inflation Reduction Act, and they want to take back monies, obviously, for our veterans and things like that. So I don't know if they ever plan to actually go through the 12 single appropriations bills going forward. I mean, when you're passing a continuing resolution for the entire fiscal year, I don't know why they won't try to keep doing this. I don't know what they're doing.
Democratic Congressman Jasmine Crockett, thanks so much for coming in.
So this is this is what I don't get. Somebody said, "Well, there was a '90s brand that was doing good in the EV space, but I don't even know their names. But they were going faster than Tesla. They went faster than Tesla, but nobody knows their names now. Man, you better enjoy your Tesla and be grateful for Tesla."
Welcome to Hannity, and tonight we have a lot of ground to cover with big developments at home and abroad. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. We will get our White House briefing from her and more on her clash with the so-called reporter from the very anti-Trump Associated Press, very woke Associated Press. And later, part two of my exclusive interview with HHS Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr., who made this promise during our trip this weekend to Steak and Shake.
If you tried to take away the president's favorite foods, you would be fired. I'm pretty convinced.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not.
You know.
You better not take away the president's food. Not going to happen. Anyway, we're going to have much more of our interview later in the show. We'll talk about measles. We will talk about the price of eggs and avian and everything else that's going on. But first, tonight, thanks to President Trump, we are one giant step closer to peace in Europe. We can all pray. Take a look.
Today, we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable and accounts for their interests, their security, their ability to prosper as a nation. We'll take this offer now to the Russians, and we hope that they'll say yes, to peace. The ball's now in their court.
The fighting has to stop. I mean, that's what we agreed today. And just think about it. We've gone from if the war is going to end to now how the war is going to end, and this was an important first step, and that was under President Trump's leadership. He has literally moved the entire global conversation to where we had a very
Y'all keep saying BYD is selling more than Tesla. No, that's fake news, bro. Go do your research. BYD is a great company, but Tesla is the largest worldwide. Go check. Everybody has Google. Go Google it right now. If I'm wrong, I'm gonna go make a coffee and drink, and we're gonna enjoy the show. But Tesla is the highest selling, largest. BYD is maybe second or third, but not close to Tesla. I'll tell you that much. Check now. Fact check me now. Okay.
very senior Ukrainian delegation with us today. We've had engagements with our Russian counterparts, and now it's how the war is going to end, and that's under President Trump's leadership.
I wonder all the praise from America's old school hippie liberals, the ones that used to love to sing, all we're saying is give peace a chance. Where have all those people gone? This is by far the closest we have come to peace since the start of this war. I hope the death and destruction ends. Anybody with a heart, conscience, and soul should hope for the same. But just 10 days ago, my memory serves me well, the state-run legacy media mob, Democrats, they were all hysterical. This after Zelensky's tense meeting at the White House. They told us Trump ruined America's relationship with Ukraine and are standing around the world for years and years to come, and that peace was never going to even have a chance to happen. You might recall. Take a look.
They come in the air hours after an Oval Office ambush of an American ally that will reverberate all around the world and stain America's image for years to come. It revealed instead of Donald Trump and a J.D. Vance clearly on an errand for Vladimir Putin.
They are popping the champagne in Moscow. They've got their best vodka out, and they're doing shots as we speak. There's no question.
That's exactly the same thought that went through my head.
The propaganda is what's coming out of J.D.
Exactly. The propaganda is what is coming out of your mouth. Okay, here we go.
Vance's mouth, and it's Russian propaganda.
Caitlin, I want to start with, look at her face. I mean, Christian. Hold that thought for once. Okay, actually, Christian, please take it away.
Never in the history of modern diplomacy, war, peace, whatever, have I ever seen anything like it.
Okay.
No, you've never met a force like Donald Trump before. That's about right. Blinded by their anti-Trump rage, Democrats, the legacy media mob, they are unable, unwilling to tell their viewers the truth. Now, if you were watching this program, you are definitely better informed. In fact, here is what I was reporting 10 days ago. Take a look. I predict Zelensky, he's going to be back. He has to be back. How much more death and destruction will it take for him to come back? Now, if the media mob wasn't so blinded by their anti-Trump rage, they'd be able to see the following pattern. Let me walk you through it, especially if you're in the state-run media mob. I'll go very slow for your benefit. Step one, President Trump introduces a plan, and tense negotiations usually ensue right thereafter. Step two, Democrats, the media, they all freak out. It's like Alka-Seltzer in water. They bubble and fizz, and they hate Trump. And they tell everyone that the sky is falling and the world is coming to an end. Step three, Donald Trump uses America's tremendous strength and leverage to negotiate as many favorable deals that are in America and the world's best interest. Step four, the Chicken Littles on the left, they look stupid and dishonest as per usual. This pattern is now playing out yet again with trade negotiations and tariffs against Canada, Mexico, etc. But guess what? Canada just backed down from a 25% tax on electricity exported to the U.S. And Trump's proposed tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, they have been paused while the two countries hopefully will be able to hammer out a deal of free and fair trade. Now, we've got to deal with real issues here. Canada must address three very glaring issues. First, they need to shut down illegal immigration and fentanyl trafficking across their border. With the U.S., it has never been higher than it is now. Second, the free ride for our friends in Canada, and I consider the people in Canada our friends, is over. Canada must start paying for their own self-defense. And don't forget, all NATO allies are required to spend 2% of their GDP on defense. The U.S. spends nearly double that target at almost $1 trillion a year. Canada, meanwhile, only spends a measly 1.37% of its GDP on national defense. Our neighbors to the north must fulfill their obligation to NATO. Third, the issue that Canada must resolve are the pre-Trump tariffs and limits imposed against a variety of American goods. You may not know this. We already have a trade imbalance with Canada. And by the
Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, do not forget, Canada has a population of over 40 million people. That's like Texas. Texas has population of over like 31 million people. So you mean like Canada has the same almost the same population as Texas, and they want to go to trade war with the United States? I don't think so.
way, they already have put tariffs on us. How many of you knew that? For example, a base 7.5% tariff on milk, but the amount of imports is capped. And after that cap is reached, then the tariff rises to a whopping 241%. That's not good for American dairy farmers in Wisconsin and elsewhere. There's also a 200% supply management tariff on eggs and poultry, and nearly a 300% supply management tariff on butter and cheese. Now, for our friends to the north, we either have free and fair trade or we don't. If they want free and fair trade, Donald Trump will give it to them. If they choose reciprocal tariffs, that will be on them. Now, I'll also add one last thing. Canada spends $30 billion on their military every year. The U.S. spends nearly $1 trillion, and the world knows that the United States will protect our friends to the north in Canada if they are ever in need. Just a little more appreciation would be nice from our friends to the north, and I'm not sure if I really want Canada to be the 51st state, because I suspect that would be 2 more liberal senators, and we don't need that. But progress is now underway, and the Trump haters on the left once again look foolish. Tonight, we are seeing this very same pattern play out with Doge as well. But the hysteria directed and the outright evil directed at Elon Musk is absolutely insane. He is receiving now constant death threats. Tesla dealerships, Tesla owners are under attack all over the country. You know, the smears, the lies from the media mob, the Democratic Party, the radical left are non.
Only bad people would do stuff like this. Try to vandalize cars, properties. Only bad intentioned people would do stuff like this. Or people who got paid to do stuff like this. You probably got paid to do stuff like this, because who in their right senses would just go do stuff like this? When you have a family, you have stuff to do. You got work to do. You got bills to pay. You got a lot to worry about. You're not about to go vandalize a car or a dealership because you don't like Elon Musk. You have real life issues to worry about, not this. So these people probably got paid to cause this chaos.
Stop. Why? All because Elon Musk supported Donald Trump, is now helping Donald Trump and losing billions of dollars in the process. He's helping to identify waste, fraud, abuse in the Washington swamp. He's helping to save our country from ultimate bankruptcy and insolvency. He's also, will hopefully be saving astronauts in just a few short days. I pray that mission goes well. I have every hope that it will. And today, the White House announced that attacks against Tesla dealerships will be labeled as domestic terrorism. And he had this to say about the leader of Doge. Take a look.
This man has devoted his energy and his life to doing this, and I think he's been treated very unfairly by a very small group of people. And I just want people to know that you can't be penalized for being a patriot, and he's a great patriot.
Now, let's be clear. The anger, the hysteria, the directed at Elon Musk and Doge from the left, it is ugly, it is sick, it is twisted, it is now becoming downright evil and dangerous. And for the record, as I promised yesterday, I ordered my Tesla today. It's on X. If you want to go look at it, you can take a look at it, or you can see it on Hannity.com. But you start to understand the hysteria of the left when you see reports like this one from Politico, quote, U.S. AI.
One thing is for sure. One thing is for goddamn sure. Tesla stock price has gone up from yesterday when the president did a free 30-minute commercial for Tesla, an American company, I must say. Okay, so the share is back up, or the stock is back up. So, look, there's going to be turbulence for sure, but this is a 4-year game. Okay, we're going for this whole 4 years. This is his 52nd day or 53rd day. Give him some time, okay, y'all. Come on, it's not even his first 100 days yet.
ID official tells remaining staffers, shred and burn your documents. I think that would be illegal. We ought to check with AG Pam Bondi on that. That is a pretty good sign that Elon Musk and his team at Doge are doing exactly what poll after poll of you, the American people, want them to do. They are uncovering corruption and waste, fraud, and abuse at the highest levels, all paid for with your hard-earned tax money. He's hated for what? Stopping an out-of-control bureaucracy from stealing from your children and your grandchildren. And he's getting death threats. His dealerships are being attacked. His charging stations are put ablaze. And
I mean, look, this man is the wealthiest human being alive, richest financially. So, death threat, he's been getting that like forever. Oh, he's getting death threat. He's scared. No, come on. To be on this level, you must have had the craziest things in this world happen to you. A lot of people have been trying to get Elon Musk for years, probably for decades, because you don't get to this level without powerful enemies. So death threat, all that stuff, trying to, attack him economically, it's not going to work because he got here for a reason. He's smart and definitely fierce. So think about it. This guy has Starlink. He has rockets. If he goes Iron Man on everybody else, I don't know, man, because this man, he's calm, cool, and collected, but Elon can actually be like the ultimate villain if he decides to.
A boycott to try and bankrupt him, this is beyond sick. And once again, the state-run media mob, Democratic Party, they look stupid, dishonest, etc. But tonight, we have yet another example of this pattern surrounding the price of eggs. For the past 4 weeks, the left has been in a state of hysteria. Now, they told us, in spite of Biden inflation, that it was only transitory. They said the border was secure. They said Joe was a cognitive, pillar of strength. And the rising price of eggs, blaming Trump for the economy that he inherited, even though the increase was caused by the Biden administration and bird flu related to mass murder of chickens. Now, after less than 2 months under Donald Trump, look at this. Prices are starting to come down. Take a look.
I had no inflation. I had a great economy. He gave you high prices. You couldn't buy bacon. You couldn't buy anything. And also, I inherited a situation with eggs. The price of eggs was through the roof. Well, now the price of eggs has come down a lot. Interest rates have come down. Gasoline prices have come down. It's all coming down. It's all a beautiful thing. I can do it the right way or the wrong way. We're doing it the right way. And I have tremendous confidence in this country and the people of this country. Tremendous confidence, much more so than if I sat back for 4 years and had a good time in the Oval Office.
Here is the president of the United States who had the popular vote, won all swing states, was given a mandate, okay, and is here almost every day, if not every day, for the past 3 days right now. Has been doing press conferences, giving updates every single day. He's here saying eggs are now down. He's so informed with the American people. He knows these guys are complaining about the egg prices. And immediately he says, you know what? Egg prices are down. Gas is beginning to come down. Man, I'm proud. I'm proud I voted for this guy. That's all I'll say. Because he's actually going to work like 9 to 5, doing this job, being intentional with it, is working hard, trying his best to do everything he said he was going to do during the campaign trail. It's hard. It's a lot of work. And you have so many oppositions against you. But so far, I think he's doing a great job.
Now, the moral of the story is simple. Tune out the noise and the hysteria and the lying and the screaming. And you know what? If there are great patriots that are trying to help our country and they're under fire for doing nothing but serving the people in this country, you know what? Maybe we can help support them. Because obviously the left is just got a vendetta attitude about everything. There's no doubt that we're still dealing with the effects of Biden's terrible presidency. We are living under the Biden-Harris economy, but President Trump is busy now executing the plan.
He's busy executing the plan every day, creating momentum. That's the word. I learned that from Trump. Like, you got to create momentum, y'all. You got to do it so much that you can create momentum. And then you can make a deal, okay?
That he wants to fix what is broken and generate a new era of peace and prosperity, what he calls a golden age in America.
Yeah, that's right.
The results are starting to pour in.
Yeah, I support Trump. I don't agree with everything he does, but I support Trump.
Trump went car shopping today.
Hello, President Trump. Are you looking to buy or lease today?
Well, I'm going to buy. And I'm going to buy because, number one, it's a great product, as good as it gets. Now, here's the bad news. I'm not allowed to drive because I haven't driven a car in a long time, and I love to drive cars. But I'm going to have it at the White House, and I'm going to let my staff use it. I'm going to let people at the place use it. And they all are all excited about that. I'm not allowed to use it. Can you believe it?
Watch out, ladies. If you see a Tesla whipping around D.C. next week, it might be Stephen Miller. And Trump just laid his eyes on a red one.
Should I get in?
Get in.
Okay.
Have you ever sat
Let me get in
steering
a
wheel
second.
of one of these? Of a Tesla?
You want my notes?
Yeah.
They gave me notes. I said, I'm not Biden. I don't need notes. I'll watch Secret Service go crazy. Thank you.
I mean, if you actually drove it around, it would really be wild.
Wow.
I get on this other side.
That's beautiful. This is a different panel than I've had. Everything's computer. You don't want me to drive it, do you? This is really amazing. Think Biden could get into that car? I don't think so.
Binder used to say, why would Biden buy an EV? Presidents don't drive. Well, Trump doesn't drive either, and he just paid sticker price for one. He should have haggled. Whatever happened to the art of the deal? The Democrats saw Trump buy a Tesla on the White House lawn and said the car's ugly, and it's the most corrupt administration in American history.
I mean, why would you post something like this and you title your name on X, The Democrats, and then you type ugly ASS truck? And you want to win elections? I don't know.
Democrats are mad that Trump's promoting EVs. It's what Biden did for 4 years.
Shitty looking EVs. That's what he did.
This sucker's quick.
How does it compare to the Corvette?
It's a beautiful car. I like the Corvette.
Biden gave billions to Detroit to build EVs and then gave Americans $8,000 in rebates to buy one. But he didn't buy one. He said he liked his Corvette better because the way the engine purred. The only reason 47 is buying a Tesla is because Democrats are firebombing them.
No, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Mr. President talks about some of the violence that's been going on around the country at dealerships. Some say they should be labeled domestic terrorists.
I will do that. I'll do it. I'm going to stop them. We catch anybody doing it because they're harming a great American company. When you heard an American company, especially a company like this, supplies so many jobs that others are unable to do, when you do that, those people are going to go through a big problem when we catch them. Let me tell you, you do it to Tesla and you do it to any company, we're going to catch you and you're going to go through hell.
Liberals said EVs were going to save the planet. Now they're lighting them on fire. I can't even keep up with these people. Any American company that comes under attack by domestic terrorists, the president, whoever it is, should buy the product. If liberals were vandalizing Pizza Hut, the president has to get some deep dish delivered. Teslas are made in America. They don't make them in Mexico. That's the whole point of Trump's trade agenda. Made in America by American. Create jobs and boost wages.
What is your message, President Trump? Buying a new car while there are some folks who will see this clip at home and they are struggling with their retirement accounts down at the moment, uncertainty about work ahead.
Well, I think they're going to do great. I think our country had to do this. We had to go and do this. They've taken away, other countries have taken away our business. They've taken away our jobs. This economy, in my opinion, is going to blow it away. But what I have to do is I have to get the workers back. I have to get the factories open. We gave it away. Presidents before me gave it away, and I could name every one of them. But they gave it away, and we're taking it back.
Globalization benefited multinational corporations, kept the stock market high, kept prices low. But it decimated around 100,000 American factories and sent 5 million manufacturing jobs overseas. That's why we call it the Rust Belt. Working class, middle American towns collapsed when the jobs left. Families fell apart. The birth rate dropped, and the drugs took over.
For ages, hot molten steel has been the lifeblood of Johnstown, vigorously pumping dollars and jobs through the city's veins. But now the pulse of the community is in cardiac arrest. Bethlehem officials aren't making any more comments than what's contained in this press release. They're sorry, but it's simply not cost effective to run the mill any longer.
It does hurt, and there's a dramatic spin-off that's going to come from that, and there's going to be a lot of problems that have to be solved.
In part, Bethlehem cites fierce foreign competition and the national economy for their demise. For some Bethlehem employees, it's hard to look past the shocking news.
Don't rely on a corporation that don't want you, in a sense, and they don't care, you know. You're only a number.
American industry got hollowed out. We stopped building ships, automobiles, even medicine, and it crushed our dignity. It wounded the fabric of American life. This trade war is really a war for American independence.
President Trump will not repeat the trend of past American presidents who broke their promises to the American public and smiled while they stuck a knife in the back of American workers and shipped their jobs overseas.
Trump was elected in 2016 to save the working men and women of this country. And he got off to a great start. And then COVID hit. And we realized how vulnerable we are, relying on China for everything. Foreign supply chains in critical industries are a national security threat. And the golden age isn't going to happen if American companies don't come home. What's the Democrats' plan to do that? They don't have one. What's the Democrats' plan to lower foreign tariffs? They don't have one. The stock market was good under Biden because Joe never did anything. And the market liked certainty. And the market was certain Joe was asleep. No news, no new action. It was predictable. Wall Street did great. But how'd the American worker do? They got hammered by inflation and illegal immigration. And Trump was elected to correct this. And that's what he's doing. The tariffs are unpredictable. And the market hates that. They have to plan ahead. And they can't move factories back here like that. That takes time and money. And Wall Street has plenty of money, but the American worker doesn't have the time. And Canada especially has gotten a free ride for far too long. Trump's been trying to make them an offer they can't refuse. Quote, the only thing that makes sense is for Canada to become our cherished 51st state.
51st
This would
state,
make all
y'all.
tariffs and everything else totally disappear. Yesterday, our neighbors to the north decided they wanted to do things the hard way. They slapped a 25% tariff on electricity coming into the country, which would jack up utility prices in New York, Michigan, Minnesota. Trump hit back this morning, announcing he was doubling the tariffs on Canadian steel from 25% to 50%. The Canadians didn't like that, and they fired the first official shot of the American-Canadian war.
Let me be clear. I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely.
That's an act of war. That's like a utility company telling the army base next door they're going to shut their power off. The army base that protects them and everybody else in town. Trump couldn't believe it. He declared a national emergency on electricity. Quote, can you imagine Canada stooping so low as to use electricity that so affects the life of innocent people as a bargaining chip and threat? They will pay a financial price for this so big that it will be read about in history books for many years to come. And the Canadians immediately called the White House and backed down.
Of course.
As you know, there's a very strong man in Canada who said he was going to charge a surcharge or a tariff on electricity coming into our country. He has called and he said he's not going to do that. Okay, he's not going to do that. And it would have been a very bad thing if he did. And he's not going to do that. So I respect that.
Can you believe the nerve of Canada trying to...
This is what I voted for, ladies and gentlemen. A man who can pick up the phone, talk to people on the phone, negotiate a deal, and say, you know what, I get it. You're just trying to do what is best for your people. I'm trying to do what's best for my people. But don't turn off the electricity. Yes, sir. We're not going to turn off the electricity.
Pull our plug over a steel tariff, which is just a tactic Trump's using to renegotiate the USMCA that comes up for review next year.
It's directed at Canada. Because you look at Toyota, Toyota builds the RAV4 and some Lexus models up in Canada. Look, the RAV4 is wildly popular, one of the most popular vehicles sold here in the United States. So, you know, what this is the Trump administration saying to Canada, you think you have these plants? Think again. We want them down here.
The media won't tell you this, but major companies are pouring back into this country. Honda, Hyundai, Volvo, LG, Samsung, Stellantis, Volkswagen, the list goes on. American Steel loves what Trump's doing, and so do the Teamsters, who didn't endorse Kamala Harris.
It's almost comical if it didn't have an economic effect. It's like, you know, he puts the tariff in, he puts the tariff out, he puts the tariff in, he puts the tariff out, then he does the hokey pokey, and he turns us all around.
We're in a world of hurt. No matter what Donald Trump tells you, because he's nervous, he's scared, he's doing these interviews because he's trying to change the narrative, such negative news. We're in a recession. We are.
If we are in a recession, then we've been in a recession for the past 4 years. If you call this a recession, then we've had a recession for the past 4 years. Don Lemon.
And a dictatorship, but we're in a recession.
And it's going to be worse in the next couple of days and worse after that because he has started a trade war that we're going to lose. And it's unbelievable that there's people believe in it.
A dictator triggered a recession by starting a trade war he's going to lose. That's the media's patriotic message. Well, I guess we should just go back to Bidenomics, where life was so affordable and foreigners never invaded our country and stole our jobs.
It wasn't affordable.
The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, says the economy needs to detox from Bidenomics.
The thing is that the markets aren't taking into account, my view, and I think this is pretty much backed up by everybody I'm speaking to, is that there's there's some goodies coming, right? Lower taxes, less regulation. Less fentanyl in this country because we closed the borders, which is going to be good for the economy. Less immigration, which means you don't have illegal immigrants clouding our healthcare system. All this is happening right now, and it's not being factored into the market. So I would just say this, if you're looking at this sort of broadly, this is a puke. We need to get some of this out of our system.
Now, if you're retiring now, first of all, congratulations. You've experienced the greatest market run in civilization. Look at this chart from the 80s. If you put $100,000 in the market in 1980, didn't touch it, didn't even add to it, you'd retire today with $7 million. No one likes to lose money, but the Dow's basically flat since the election. I know, it's been about 4 months. It seems like longer. And Trump's not running for re-election, so he's doing the tough stuff that no other politician would ever do. Fight trade wars, buck Wall Street, cut spending, because it's in the long-term interest of the American people.
Mr. President, your comments the other day not ruling out a potential recession seemed to rattle the stock markets. The Commerce Secretary said there wouldn't be one.
Boom. Just so you know.
Just specifically on the recession.
Yeah.
Do you think there will be a recession?
I don't see it at all. I think this country is going to boom. But as I said, I can do it the easy way or the hard way. The hard way to do it is exactly what I'm doing, but the results are going to be 20 times greater. And remember, Trump is always right.
And what do you say to Americans?
If you look at what I've said over the last 10 years, Trump has been right all the time. This is the way to do it.
I mean, he's been right. He's been right, ladies and gentlemen. He's been right. You can't argue with that. That man been right for a long time.
Senior Trump advisor Elon Musk has been paying the price for trying to help our nation. The liberal media mocked him after SpaceX's latest rocket launch failed. Watch.
It is the second consecutive Starship test flight from Elon Musk's company to end with destruction.
All I could think about was, I can't sing.
No, please don't. His response to all of this was rockets are hard. And Mr. Musk, if they're so hard, why don't you go back to your day job?
Man, please.
Moreover, anti-Musk protesters are targeting Tesla dealerships and staging boycotts. And now his stock is taking a hit. MSNBC's Joe Scarborough took a swipe at that. Watch.
I mean, Tesla has been overvalued, analysts believe, for years. It's sort of a meme stock. People are investing in sort of the genius of Elon Musk. That's obviously been shattered over the past couple months.
Yeah, speaking of overvalued. Now, Musk told Fox Business's Larry Kudlow that he's just looking out for America.
Yeah, I mean, really, I just don't want America to go bankrupt.
So it's a call to action. You're hearing a call to action.
Yeah.
You giving up your other stuff? I mean, how are you running your other businesses?
With great difficulty.
Now, if you invest in the stock market, and if you are, let's say, older, and you've been doing this for a long time, you would understand that the market going down is normal. All right. The stock market is meant to be a long-term game. Now, there are, day traders in the stock market, forex traders or whatever. But the stock market as a whole is meant to be a long-term game. So this is the time for people to buy. I'm not advising you financially, but I would say when the prices are low, this is when you have to, or this is when maybe you should be investing some money in, ETFs and stuff like that. But this is normal. Stock market goes down and it goes back up. It stays, it goes back down, it goes back up. But overall, it's always going to go up, okay, over the years.
Yeah, I mean.
But there's no turning back, you're saying?
I'm just here trying to make government more efficient, eliminate waste and fraud.
And President Trump is coming to his defense, posting this, quote, "I'm going to buy a brand new Tesla tomorrow morning as a show of confidence and support for Elon Musk, a truly great American. Why should he be punished for putting his tremendous skills to work in order to help make America great again?" And that's the question right there, Paul. Why should he be punished for it? Why shouldn't everyone be grateful?
Boy, the left couldn't wait for this talking point, right? I think Joe Scarborough has a little rocket envy. So, listen, think about what's really going on here.
And this is the thing, like when people say, you know what, nobody should buy Tesla stock, nobody should buy, that stock, Microsoft stock, Meta stock, or whatever stock you want to buy, okay? NVIDIA. Look, the truth is, personally, I wouldn't tell anybody to buy personal stocks. However, I'm not a financial planner or whatever. Because it's like, things like this happen, and then the stock goes down, okay? It might be for a short term, it might be for a long term. Who knows? Nobody knows. But if you buy ETFs, it's like you're sort of kind of like in a safe zone. All right. This is my opinion. Okay. Everybody has their own opinions, but my opinion is, stock market, ETFs is like the way to go.
Here, let's go back 10 years ago or so, right? You remember when Elon Musk was the person who was going to lead us into a carbonless future? Do you remember when the Barack Obama administration lent them almost $500 million, which, by the way, Elon Musk paid back early? We have Teslas, thanks to the Obama administration, folks. These are all Barack-mobiles that are flying around right now, all right? And all of you have conveniently forgotten that. And the reason is because he's showing up to be a cop. He's showing up to say, okay, look, we can't keep printing money this way. I'm a businessman. By the way, I am somebody who paid the government back. I know how this works. And nobody likes sometimes when the cops show up and say, no, you can't do that. But that's really what's happening. He's coming in to be the adult in the room. We can't keep running the printing presses. And that's just the bottom line.
And Ainsley, I'm still shocked, frankly, by that point of view being espoused on these television stations, cheering for failure, cheering for potential loss of life or harm to others, cheering Molotov cocktails to car dealerships, and the failure of a genius that is emboldened by trial and error so that his accomplishments can benefit all Americans.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to go and rescue those astronauts. If that is successful, can you imagine? They'll still hate him. He wants to reduce waste and fraud. He wants to save him.
So somebody just asked a question in the chat, said, when was the first time you heard about tariffs or reheard about tariffs? A lot of people just heard about tariffs like when Trump started talking about tariffs, and then they started, studying about it. So a lot of people haven't even heard about the word tariffs when it pertains to government.
American tax dollars, but they still hate him. He's helping the blind to see, he says, and they still hate him. And then he's making people that have spinal cord injuries walk again, and they hate him.
Thanks.
It's evil. It's mean. Laughing because the rocket blew up. I mean, why? I hope that we would never do that, even if we disagree with his politics. They only hate him because they hate Trump, and that's the only reason. But now he has assassination attempts. He has dealerships vandalized, charging stations set on fire. Yeah. Where's the common sense, people? He's saving hundreds of billions of dollars in taxpayer money.
It's indefensible.
Yeah, the fact that our politics has become tribal. I mean, that's what you're describing.
They don't want those astronauts to come back, do they? They want him to fail.
Well, they want the country to fail.
Yeah.
Because they aren't in control. And the country was failing when they were in control.
Oh, that's true.
So they had both at one point. So you can only imagine how much they want it to fail, and they're out of power. I do think it's worth mentioning, as we are now on the precipice of maybe Democrats willing to fall on a sword and say, you know what, let's just shut it all down. Let's not give them any more power. I can't believe they're willing at this point to let us fail in that way and not pass a continuing resolution for the budget and get us to the point where we can increase, taxes by not letting them sunset. All of that is coming down the pike by Friday, potentially, as they stand in the way. And why do I bring this up now? Because that would be the epic failure that they could take, credit for and say, we stood in the way of Republicans. They don't care about real Americans, because if they did, they would have heard the calls about Bidenomics not working from the people who said, we don't want to talk about this woke stuff anymore. They are on their own train. And I predict they'll run out of tracks unless they figure out what to do.
Which is sort of my question to you, Kaylee, and it's one of perspective. You've worked so closely with this administration the first year, and you have such good insight into it. My question is, for the mob mentality, is it simply that once they get a new beast, they'll leave Elon alone? Yes. Or at what point, to Ainsley's point, will he do so much good that they will indeed release this hatred for him? What will change?
They'll never leave Elon Musk alone. I had been in the administration about 2 months.
And this is what I said yesterday. Elon is in for hell in the long run. I'm sorry to say, because except Republicans keep winning for the next, 8, 12, 16 years, maybe Elon is going to be safe. But if a Democrat becomes the president in 2028 or 2032, Elon will be investigated, and it's going to go through, litigations. It's going to be long, expensive. They're going to drag him to court like they did to Trump. People are going to understand, but it's going to happen.
And I remember distinctly the day when Elon Musk sent a tweet in May of 2020, and it was a tweet about being red-pilled. And I remembered at some point in the administration flagging for President Trump, this Elon Musk guy says he's being red-pilled. I mean, that's really interesting. You know, he's the richest man in the world, or he was close to it at the time. And the red pill tweet, you know, I thought was an indication I might be moving to the Republican Party. I think it was a reference to the Matrix. The red pill means you're taking the pill of truth. The blue pill means you're living in ignorance. Elon Musk chose to take the red pill and live in truth. And what that meant is exactly what he's doing. Realizing we are a bankrupt country with $37 trillion, we're leaving our kids, the height of irresponsibility. And what is he doing? He said in the cabinet meeting, I'm not trying to be capricious here or arbitrary. I am trying to do what's best for this country. And I think Trump deeply resonates with him. Trump said he's putting it all on the line. Trump said this is something that's really not good for him. President Trump chose to do something for our country. He could be on a yacht somewhere, floating around with Melania.
So true.
He put it all on the line as a billionaire. Elon Musk put it all on the line. And it's not self-serving. They're doing it for the good of the country. So let's give them a break here as they try to save the future so that Nash, Blake, Hayden, all of our kids don't have to pay for our irresponsible credit cards.
That's right. And you know what you call that? That's being in the arena. All of these people in the stands are simply watching.
Give them a break. They're not going to give them a break. Nah, they ain't going to give them a break. Because they never will.
Live from deep in the heart.
Thank you. Okay, so, of course, OG Trump had a roundtable conversation today with business leaders in the in the White House. Let's listen to this. Oh, is this audio? Okay.
You're all great professors. And he did have an ability. We had contracts that, and we had many, many jobs where there was nobody working but getting a check. We had contracts that expired years ago, but they were continuously being paid. Probably, I'll bet you it's $500 billion, perhaps, if you add it up so far. And we're trying to get to $1 trillion. That's a big number. And he did have an ability to do something that a lot of people didn't think of. He'd come in with bigger ideas. We'd say, we want you to cut down the size of your agency by 2%. And we thought that was good. He came in, he said 80%. I said, what the hell's going on? 80%. And largely, I mean, we had to do it carefully, and we had some little hiccups, not big hiccups. But we saved a tremendous amount of money for the future. This is going into the future. And in some cases, it would be 80, and in some cases, it would be 5% or 2% or 3%, you know, depending on the agency. And you can almost, you're all great professionals, the top, and you can almost look at some of the agencies and see which ones had to be cut and which ones didn't. Also in terms of their importance and in terms of being current. So we saved a tremendous amount of money. And I think, you know, I don't know if it's going to reach $1 trillion, but it's going to reach a lot. And it was an honor to have Michael there yesterday. You got to see a little bit of it. We had a conference. And a lot of investment coming into our country, much more than I've ever seen. Apple is investing $500 billion. IBM was with us yesterday, and they're investing a lot. Just companies all over. I could name them. You've read most of them, many of them. But hundreds of billions of dollars is being invested. That wouldn't have happened if I didn't win the election, number one. And I think, number two, the tariffs are having a tremendously positive impact. They will have, and they are having. We have car companies that are not building in Mexico now. They're building in the United States. Some of them, the plants were already started, and they stopped construction, and now they're going to build in the United States. It was very unfair. They'd build in Mexico and sell them across the border with no tax, no nothing. They'd take away our jobs. They'd close up places in Michigan and all over the country, and they'd build them in Mexico. In many cases, they were owned by China. Built in Mexico, owned by China. And that's all stopped now. They're all coming here. Honda is building a massive plant in different places, Indiana, South Carolina, but also in Michigan, a lot in Michigan. A lot of activity is happening. They're looking all over the place for for places, and that's because there is a good spirit, there's a renewed spirit, and also, very importantly, the tariffs they don't want to pay 25% or whatever it may be. It may go up higher, Look, the higher it goes, the more likely it is they're going to build. And ultimately, the biggest win is not the tariff. That's a big win. That's a lot of money. But the biggest win is if they move into our country and produce jobs. That's a bigger win than the tariffs themselves. But the tariffs are going to be throwing off a lot of money to this country. And we've been ripped off for years by other countries, many, many decades. And they were doing the same thing. But I think we'll do it better. And I think we have a bigger advantage because we really are the piggy bank. They weren't.
Thank you, Mr. President. You've also mentioned rebuilding the American top priority. And I guess, what's your strategy to lower the overall cost of living, make everyday expenses more?
Okay, for some reason they had bad footage and bad audio. Anyway, I did say this was in the White House. Apparently, it's not in the White House, as you can see. Anyway, the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, she had a press conference yesterday, and she had some important words to say. And I want us to listen to that as well.
How are you? Good. I'll let my staff get settled. There's a lot of news today, so I look forward to taking your questions. Good to see you. And I have some updates for you as well. Later today, President Trump will address the Business Roundtable's quarterly meeting, where he will tout his pro-growth economic agenda and answer questions before more than 100 of our nation's leading CEOs. In fact, it's the largest attendance ever for this event because business leaders are so eager and encouraged by President Trump's return to Washington. This follows President Trump's roundtable yesterday with the Technology CEO Council here at the White House, where he met with key leaders in the technology industry. And last night, President Trump also held an official swearing-in ceremony in the Oval Office for Sean Curran, who is now the 28th Director of the United States Secret Service. Sean demonstrated unbelievable bravery under gunfire in Butler, Pennsylvania this past July when an assassin tried to kill President Trump. As someone who got to know Sean personally throughout the campaign last year, I can say unequivocally that there is nobody better suited for this important role. And following the confirmation of Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRomer last night, the Senate has now confirmed 21 of President Trump.
Also, I just wanted to add this. A lot of people are saying a lot about Elon Musk, but I just want Americans to remember that Elon Musk is the CEO of Tesla, and Tesla employs around 120,000 workers across the United States. 120,000 workers across the United States. So before people start, throwing stones at Elon Musk, saying he is a bad person or whatever, he employs around 120 Americans. So, is he bad? I don't think so.
Well-qualified cabinet-level nominees, far outpacing the previous administration. And looking ahead, tomorrow, the president will welcome the Taoiseach Micheál Martin of Ireland for the annual White House Shamrock ceremony. And Thursday, President Trump will welcome the NATO Secretary General for a working meeting and lunch. On the economy, February's jobs report was good news for America, particularly our manufacturing sector. The manufacturing sector gained 10,000 new jobs in just 1 month under President Trump. This rebound was led by the automobile sector, where we saw 9,000 new auto jobs created already. That is the most auto jobs added to the economy in 15 months. This was a complete turnaround from the Biden administration, where we were losing an average of 9,000 manufacturing jobs per month last year. Reuters is out with a report that a number of companies are now looking at expanding their presence or bringing their businesses into America because of President Trump's policies. And just moments ago, before coming out here, I saw another report by Reuters revealing that Merck has opened a $1 billion facility at its North Carolina site. This is just the latest pharmaceutical company to boost its U.S. manufacturing in lieu of President Trump's tariffs. This announcement follows Eli Lilly's plans to invest at least $27 billion to build 4 new manufacturing plants here in the United States. And Pfizer has also said it's considering moving their manufacturing overseas right here to the United States of America. As the president has said over and over again, when we purchase products made in the USA, the profits stay here, the revenue stays here, and most importantly, the jobs stay here. And despite the globalist mainstream media's attempts to worry consumers, President Trump will not repeat the trend of past American presidents who broke their promises to the American public and smiled while they stuck a knife in the back of American workers and shipped their jobs overseas. Our country has lost more than 5 million jobs in more than 90,000 factories due to devastating globalization over the last 3 decades alone. North Carolina lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs, including 60% of its furniture manufacturing jobs in the years following NAFTA. And in Michigan, globalist policies destroyed 250,000 jobs, including 40% of the auto industry, which again we know is clawing back because of President Trump's action already. These are harrowing statistics that represent countless towns and families who have been completely destroyed. But the America Last globalist era is ending under President Trump. He will no longer allow our country and our workers, our hard-working American families, to be ripped off. On another very important issue for the president, he continues to work hard to secure the border. If you missed it yesterday, CBP launched an enhanced home mobile app with a new feature, the Intent to Depart, which offers unlawfully present aliens or those aliens whose parole has been revoked an orderly and defined process to notify the U.S. government of their intent to depart the country. The CBP Home app strengthens our mission to secure the border and provides illegal aliens with a straightforward way to leave now before facing much harsher consequences later. A new report from Bloomberg just found that the number of aliens trying to reach our country by traveling through the jungle to Central America dropped a whopping 99% last month. And this follows the incredible news that illegal border crossings plummeted last month as well, down 94% at our southern border from last February under the Biden administration. As President Trump made clear during his historic address to Congress, we must finish this job and continue to carry out the largest deportation campaign in American history. And that is why the president fully endorses the continuing resolution that is before Congress and was negotiated by Speaker Johnson. He is encouraging all Republicans to vote yes on this clean CR, which freezes funding at current levels and will prevent the Democrats from getting their long-awaited government shutdown. Voting against this CR will hurt the American people and kill the incredible momentum that President Trump has built over the past 51 days. And lastly, before I take questions, I would like to commend the Washington Post, who I believe is in the room today. According to a new report from Axios, the Washington Post is overhauling their newsroom structure. It appears that the mainstream media, including the Post, is finally learning that having disdain for more than half of the country who supports this president does not help you sell newspapers. It's not a very good business model. And that's why we have people in our new media seat. And today we have Sargar Anetti, who is the host of Breaking Points, a popular political YouTube news and podcast show that has racked up nearly 1 billion views on YouTube, several hundred million podcast downloads since its launch in June 2021. He's also a former member of the White House Correspondents Association, but is now a part of the thriving independent media. We're very happy to have you with us here today. Why don't you kick off our briefing? Thank you.
Really appreciate you having me, Caroline. A couple of questions for you, if I may. First on the stock market. So currently it's the 25th anniversary today of the dot-com bubble crash. There's a lot of concern for a lot of Americans right now about the state of the economy. President Trump has refused to rule out a recession. Secretary Lutnick, however, has told us there will not be one. So can the White House just tell and assure Americans today that there's not going to be a recession?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. So let me start by saying that, first of all, when it comes to the stock market, the numbers that we see today, the numbers we saw yesterday, the numbers we'll see tomorrow are a snapshot of a moment in time. And as President Trump has said, and I'm here to echo the remarks of this president of this White House, we are in a period of economic transition. We are in a period of transition from the mess that was created under Joe Biden in the previous administration. Joe Biden left this country in an economic disaster. Several statistics to point out. The delinquency rate on credit card loans increased 63% under Joe Biden, hitting a near 12-year high. Under Joe Biden, all net job growth went to foreign-born Americans. Real wages declined by 1.5% under Joe Biden. And as we all know, and this administration continues to combat, prices soared more than 20% under Joe Biden because of his reckless spending and economic policies. So we are in a period of transition from that economic nightmare under a president who had no idea what he was doing, never held a private sector job in his life, into a golden age of American manufacturing under a businessman and a deal maker in chief in President Donald J. Trump, who is implementing the formula that we know works. Look at President Trump's results in his first term. If people are looking for certainty, they should look at the record of this president. That's why the American people re-elected him back to this office. And look at everything that President Trump has already done and his team has already done in just 51 days. The massive efforts to deregulate, tax cuts, which we need Congress to pass the Trump economic agenda, the Trump tax cuts, which will unleash economic growth. And the president also addressed this directly, I will point out as well, when you look at what he said on Air Force One. And he said he wants the American people to have so much money in their pockets they don't even know what to do with it. That's the intent of this administration, and we're working very hard every day on that goal.
Second question on the CR. So President Trump came out today in a primary challenge against Congressman Thomas Massie. Congressman Massie's been a supporter of DOGE. He's been a supporter of Make America Healthy Again. What kind of message is this White House sending against a congressman who's sticking up for principles that he's long held in the chamber and voting against continuing resolution and spending?
I think the president has made it very clear that he believes it's critical for conservatives and Republicans and frankly all members of Congress to get behind this continuing resolution to keep the government funded. The president wants to continue the momentum that he has built over the last 51 days. In order to keep the government funded, we got to keep moving with these deportations, and he believes that everybody needs to get on board with this bill. He's been active in this process. He's been making calls to get this over the finish line, and we're urging every Republican and Democrats too to do what's right for the American public to prevent a government shutdown.
Just the last question here on Mahmoud Khalil. Does the administration believe that it needs to charge a green card holder with a crime to be eligible for deportation?
Well, in fact, Secretary Rubio reserves the right to revoke the visa of Mahmoud Khalil, and I'm glad you brought this up. Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, the Secretary of State has the right to revoke a green card or a visa for individuals who serve or are adversarial to the foreign policy and national security interests of the United States of America. And Mahmoud Khalil was an individual who was given the privilege of coming to this country to study at one of our nation's finest universities and colleges. And he took advantage of that opportunity, of that privilege, by siding with terrorists, Hamas terrorists who have killed innocent men, women, and children. This is an individual who organized group protests that not only disrupted college campus classes and harassed Jewish American students and made them feel unsafe on their own college campus, but also distributed pro-Hamas propaganda, flyers with the logo of Hamas. That is what the behavior and activity that this individual engaged in. And I have those flyers on my desk. They were provided to me by the Department of Homeland Security. I thought about bringing them into this briefing room to share with all of you, but I didn't think it was worth the dignity of this room to bring that pro-Hamas propaganda. But that's what this individual distributed on the campus of Columbia University, and this administration, and then siding with pro-terrorist organizations that have killed Americans. We have a zero-tolerance policy for siding with terrorists, period. Peter Doocy.
Thank you, Caroline. So you said that the Dow dropping and dropping and dropping is a period of transition. You're sure nobody here at the White House shorted the Dow?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. But is there any concern here that it's going to be harder to ask certain federal workers to retire if they look at their retirement accounts and they're getting robbed every day?
Well, I'm glad you brought up workers, because that's exactly who President Trump is looking out for with his America First trade policy and his America First economic agenda. And if you look at, there's great indication to be optimistic about where the economy stands. And the American people, investors, CEOs, small business owners, but most importantly, workers, should bet on President Trump, because his tariff policies, what he envisions is reciprocity, fair trade practices where American workers are put first and are no longer ripped off by foreign countries all over this world.
President Trump says he's going to buy a Tesla today. Did he buy it? And when is the last time he drove a car?
That's a very good question. I have heard the president remark that he misses being able to drive, that luxury of driving his own vehicle, although the beast is nice, but he is going to be viewing a Tesla that is making its way to the White House complex now, I can confirm. Perhaps the press pool today will have an opportunity to witness this very exciting moment later this afternoon, but Tesla is on its way here now, and we'll see if the president likes it when he checks it out.
So they're bringing him a Tesla to look at, and if he likes it, he's just going to buy it.
You know, he's definitely going to buy one, but he'll take a look at it when it gets here later this afternoon.
Full retail?
Yes, full market price. Kelly.
Can we talk about Canada? What is the status of President Trump having a conversation with Mark Carney? We have seen the president use the term governor to refer to Justin Trudeau. Will that moniker also go to Mr. Carney going forward? And is the decision to increase the tariffs, is that based on a specific economic metric that he looked at? Is it impulse? How would you describe his reaction to Canada?
The president has not yet spoken to Mr. Carney, not since I checked, which was just moments ago. But certainly his phone is always open to leaders who wish to speak with him. As for the tariffs, the president made his position on this quite clear with the statement that he put out. And it was a retaliatory statement due to the escalation of rhetoric that we've seen out of Ontario, Canada. The president saw the Premier, Doug Ford, make an egregious and insulting comment threatening to shut down electricity for the American people, for hardworking American families. He made that threat. The president saw that and has an obligation and a responsibility to respond accordingly and represent the interests of the American people. So he has made the decision to add a 25% tariff. So now steel and aluminum tariffs will come into effect tomorrow at the rate of 50%. And our steel and aluminum industries have actually applauded these tariffs because, again, they know it's going to grow their industry here. It's going to allow them to export more steel that is made right here in the United States with American workers.
Egregious and insulting are your words here, but that's what many Canadian leaders have said about the actions President Trump has taken toward Canada. And what do you think the timeline is for speaking to Mr. Carney? Because normally a sitting president speaks to a close ally very quickly when there's new leadership.
Well, the president is, again, responding to the fact that Canada has been ripping off the United States of America and hardworking Americans for decades. If you look at the rates of tariffs across the board that Canadians have been imposing on the American people and our workers here, it is egregious. In fact, I have a handy-dandy chart here that shows not just Canada, but the rate of tariffs across the board. If you look at Canada, since you brought it up, American cheese and butter, nearly 300% tariff. You look at India, 150% tariff on American alcohol. You think that's helping Kentucky bourbon be exported into India? I don't think so. 100% tariff on agricultural products from India. Look at Japan, tariffing rice, 700%. President Trump believes in reciprocity, and it is about dang time that we have a president who actually looks out for the interests of American businesses and workers. And all he's asking for at the end of the day are fair and balanced trade practices, and unfortunately, Canada has not been treating us very fairly at all over the past several decades. To the woman in the purple, because I saw you were making a face at my previous answer, so what's going on?
I have a couple of questions. At the core of pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses and elsewhere is a demand to end the war in Gaza, a goal that this administration actually supports and has pursued. So why has this not been acknowledged or highlighted even?
Because these colleges and these protests have again put out Hamas propaganda. The flyers that have been distributed call for violence. The flyers that have been distributed have the logo of an organization that has held Americans hostage, that murdered innocent babies, that murdered men, women, and children. They are a designated foreign terrorist organization, and we are not going to tolerate non-citizens, foreigners who come here on a visa engaging in such behavior, siding with terrorists. And the Secretary of State reserves the authority to revoke the green card or the visa of an individual who serves as an actually, it says right here, reasonable grounds to believe that the alien's presence or activities in the United States would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences to the United States. And I think siding with Hamas makes that quite clear. Secretary Rubio exercised that authority, and we fully believe that we are going to move forward with more arrests, as President Trump previewed in his statement yesterday. Ed.
Yeah, thanks.
Go ahead.
So are there conversations between the administration and the Canadians going on over this tariff? Because the Ontario Premier says the next step is to cut off electricity to the U.S.
And the president put out a statement after seeing those comments and said that it would be there would be grave consequences imposed on Canada if they think about shutting off electricity for the United States of America and our citizens. And the president is also determined to ensure that we are depending on American electricity, not the electricity production of foreign nations, including our allies in Canada. As for conversations, there is continued correspondence between the president's team, particularly Secretary Lutnick, and the Canadians as well.
In the market reaction, how do you sell to the American people then, after they're looking at what's happening in the markets this week, and say that the tariff policy long term is something good?
Well, just think about what the tariff policy long-term will do for our country. I think many of us probably grew up in small towns. I know at least I did, and the main street in my small town looks a heck of a lot worse than it probably did decades ago before I was alive. At least my parents and grandparents tell me so. And I know many Americans feel that same way. What the president envisions for this country is for the United States of America to be a manufacturing superpower, where there are American factories and businesses owned by Americans, producing goods that we are exporting to the rest of the world. Those revenues will stay here. It will increase wages for people here in our great country. It will ensure our national security, and it will boost the morale of the American people to have thriving industries again. Think about Detroit, Michigan. Think about North Carolina, as I mentioned, that used to have a thriving furniture industry that no longer exists because of the globalist trade policies of previous and past administrations. And the American people gave the president a tremendous opportunity to restore American greatness and restore our manufacturing dominance, and he's intent on doing just that. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Two questions for you. First, on the CR, you put up on the screen the president's message to Republicans to support this continuing resolution. Is there outreach to Democrats? Because what we've seen since the beginning of the fiscal year is that in order to get a continuing resolution, you need bipartisan support and you need compromise.
Well, right now, we are focused on House Republicans and on the House, because that's the first step, as you know, John. And so the president has engaged in correspondence with House Republicans, whipping votes and getting them to a yes, which I understand has been pretty successful this morning thus far. And so, again, the president is encouraging Republicans especially, but again, as I said, all members of Congress to vote to continue funding this government so we can continue the business of the American people, which elected President Trump to do.
And then on financial markets, we've seen this decline yesterday. We see it today as well. It seems that the read on the president's policies is one in which they do not have confidence in his trade tariffs policy. They do not have confidence in what the president said to Fox News over the weekend, that he didn't rule out the idea of a recession. What is your read in terms of the decline that we've seen over the last week and a half in financial markets?
Well, I think there's actually a lot of reason to be confident, and many people do feel confident. Just look at the nearly $2 trillion in private investment that this president has secured. Look at the comments made by the CEO of Apple, one of the biggest companies in this world, who said that he is bullish on the future of American innovation under the leadership of President Trump. Look at CEO confidence. According to the Conference Board measure of CEO confidence, in Q1 2025, under the leadership of this president, it jumped to its highest level in 3 years, from cautious optimism to confident optimism. If you, again, look at the $2 trillion in investments from some of the biggest companies in the world, look at the jobs report last Friday, as I also cited in my opening remarks. Fox Business reported that Trump sees a manufacturing boom in first full jobs report of his second term. Look at the auto jobs that have already poured back into America. We added 9,000 new auto jobs. Those are sticky jobs. Those are good paying jobs. That's 9,000 American families who will now be able to live the American dream because of the policies of this administration. You also look at small business optimism. The NFIB put out a report this morning. Small business optimism continues to be far higher than it ever was under the previous administration. There's a lot of reason to be optimistic. And again, the American people, CEOs and people on Wall Street and on Main Street should bet on this president. He is a deal maker, he is a businessman, and he's doing what's right for our country. He wants to restore wealth to the United States of America. Michael, good to see you.
Hey, Caroline, thank you. 2 questions, if I may. Will the administration be providing any relief to states affected by the Ontario power tariff?
Well, the president has made it very clear that Canada would be very wise not to shut off electricity for the American people, and we hope that that does not happen. As for what would happen if that does take place, I'll leave it to the president to make those decisions.
And does President Trump share the Justice Department's concern over rising egg prices and possible collusion of big egg?
Well, we definitely do share the concerns of the American people when it comes to the price of eggs. However, good news, the average cost of a dozen eggs is actually down since Secretary Rollins and President Trump announced their plan. It's down $1.85. So that's good news on the cost of eggs. And as we know, under the Biden administration, egg prices went up 22%. This is another example of an economic mess that President Trump inherited, and the Secretary of Agriculture and the President are focused on fixing it. Secretary Rollins put out a 4-point plan, to address this crisis, and she has been honest and realistic with the American people, as this administration always is. It will take about 3 to 6 months to get the egg supply back to where it should be, but she's focused, and this administration is focused on doing that every day. Karen.
Thanks, Caroline. Just back on the markets, you said that what we're seeing this week right now on Wall Street is a snapshot of a moment in time. But does the president think he bears any responsibility for the turmoil in the stock market this week?
Look, the president is unwavering in his commitment to restore American manufacturing and global dominance, and I think he doubled down on that this morning with his new statement and the tariffs that will be implemented tomorrow on steel and aluminum.
And he has said recently he's not looking at the market. He said you can't really watch the stock market, but all of the gains since Election Day have been erased in the S&P 500. At what point, how far do stocks have to fall before the president considers it a factor and changes course?
Again, as I just said, the president will look out for Wall Street and for Main Street, just like he did in his first term, and people on Wall Street and Main Street should bet on this president. He's doing what's right for this country. Nick, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you, Caroline. So, is the president prepared, like what we saw with Congressman Massey, to pressure other Republican lawmakers into supporting this continuing resolution?
Well, he is very much, as I said, engaged in this process. He's been making calls to lawmakers on Capitol Hill, and I think his statements against Congressman Massey speak for themselves, and I will let the president put out any additional statements if he chooses to, but he fully expects all House Republicans to vote for this continuing resolution.
And just to follow up, can we start to anticipate seeing more of the president weighing in on upcoming 2026 races like we saw this morning?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to speak about that from this podium. I would check in with our outside political team for guidance on future races and the president's involvement. Elena.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about some comments Elon Musk made yesterday. He said that there is $500 to $700 billion in waste and fraud and entitlement spending. He called it, quote, the big one to eliminate. Earlier this month, he also referred to Social Security as a Ponzi scheme. Should Americans expect changes, big changes, to Social Security and Medicare?
President Trump has been unequivocally clear on this. He is going to protect Social Security and Medicare benefits and Medicaid for hardworking Americans who paid into these entitlement programs and deserve those hard-earned benefits. And unfortunately, the mainstream media has taken Mr. Musk out of context. I saw a Bloomberg headline that our team actually worked on getting updated and fixed because it was so wrong, and it took Mr. Musk out of context. What he was specifically referring to cutting was the waste and the fraud and abuse that does exist in these programs. According to an IG report from the Social Security Administration, there's more than $70 billion of fraud in the Social Security program alone that we know of. And so the president will continue to protect these programs for hardworking Americans, and actually cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse out of these programs will protect it for hardworking Americans.
Okay, respectfully, he said around $500 to $700 billion. There was no evidence to claim that, and also if that is the case, that would represent more than a third of what Social Security paid out last year, maybe 20% of Social Security and Medicare.
Again, if you read his full quote, he said, "We think," so it's an estimate based on what he's seen. He's not saying definitively, he's saying that's what DOGE suspects and thinks. And that's exactly why DOGE was created, to ensure that we are investigating the fraudulent spending, the wasteful abuse across our federal government. And I would remind everybody in this room that 77% of the American people support this effort by Elon Musk and DOGE to identify such waste, fraud, and abuse.
Caroline.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline.
You're welcome.
If we could just step back for a second. When President Trump last addressed the BRT when he was on the campaign trail, his big push was on tax cuts. He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs.
Not true.
And I'm curious
He's not doing
why
that.
he's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people, and the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all three of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have. They don't get charged on foreign companies, they get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you are trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press. Mary, go ahead.
Hey, Caroline, I have two if that's okay. The first one was on Russia, Ukraine. I know Special Envoy Witkoff said yesterday that Zelensky apologized in his letter to Trump. Can you share any more about that letter and what else might be interesting from it that we don't know?
Yes, the president did reference that letter, as you're saying, in his joint address to Congress. And I do have an update. As you know, Secretary of State Rubio and our National Security Advisor Mike Waltz have been negotiating with the Ukrainians today in Saudi. They will be providing a full readout of that meeting very soon. But I can assure you and everybody here and the American people that the news we've received from that meeting throughout the day and the president has been briefed on is positive. This meeting has been productive. I will let Secretary of State Rubio and our National Security Advisor speak to the specifics of what has taken place today when they are ready to do so when the meeting concludes. Lindsay, go ahead.
Referring to Mahmoud Khalil, the president has said this is the first of many arrests like this. Does the administration have a rough estimate of how many arrests you're planning to make similar?
I don't have an estimate. I do know that DHS, based on very good intel that they have gathered at the direction of the president's executive order, which made it very clear to the Department of Homeland Security that engaging, as I said, in anti-American, anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas protests will not be tolerated. So since the president signed that executive order and since President's Secretary of Known has taken the oath at DHS. They have been using intelligence to identify individuals on our nation's colleges and universities, on our college campuses, who have engaged in such behavior and activity, and especially illegal activity. And so I don't have a readout on how many arrests will come, but I do know that DHS is actively working on it. And I also know that Columbia University has been given the names of other individuals who have engaged in pro-Hamas activity, and they are refusing to help DHS identify those individuals on campus. And as the president said very strongly in his statement yesterday, he is not going to tolerate that, and we expect all America's colleges and universities to comply with this administration's policy. Jasmine.
Thank you so much, Carolyn, for the question. On Canada, after all of these threats to increase tariffs or turn off electricity, I wonder, does this administration still consider Canada to be a close ally of the United States?
Well, I think Canada is a neighbor. They are a partner. They have always been an ally. Perhaps they are becoming a competitor now. But as the president also laid out in his Truth Social post today, he believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. And I actually looked into some of the research about the cost of living in Canada, and the cost of living is much higher than it is here in the United States of America. The average cost of a home in Canada is much higher. In Quebec, the highest tax rate for an income of $150,000 or more is 53.3%, more than half of Canadians' incomes they are being taxed on. So the president has made it clear that he believes Canadians would be better served economically, militarily, if they were to become the 51st state of the United States of America. Reagan.
Thank you, Caroline. A week ago, Attorney General Bondi said a truckload of Epstein files had been delivered to her office from the SDNY. When can we expect those files to be released to the public?
I would defer you to the Department of Justice. I don't have a timeline here.
Do you have any update on the JFK files?
I don't at this moment. Again, I would defer you to our DNI director, Tulsi Gabbard, and also the Department of Justice. I know that they are working on that diligently, as the president requested them to do. Christian.
Thanks, Caroline. 2 questions. Since we've been talking a lot about tariffs, have there been any updates on standing up the External Revenue Service to collect revenue from that?
Well, we need reciprocal tariffs to go into effect first, and as you know, the president will be rolling those out on April 2nd, and then the next start of that process is collecting that revenue to ultimately create the External Revenue Service, which Secretary Lutnick is working very hard on and is quite enthusiastic about, if you have noticed from his media interviews.
Can the president do that through executive action, or will it require legislation?
Well, the president already signed an executive order to direct the Secretary of Commerce to establish the External Revenue Service, or at least to identify ways in which it can be done. I would defer you to the Department of Commerce for more on specifics on that. Sure, in the back.
Thank you very much, Caroline. I have few questions on South Korea and North Korea. First question, as you know, South Korean President Yoon has been released from illegal detention. What is the reaction of the United States as an ally? Is there a possibility of a summit with President Trump when President Yoon returns? Second question on North Korea. North Korea launched the several ballistic missiles into the West Coast yesterday. What is the White House's reaction on this?
Sure. Yes, I'll start with your question on North Korea. We condemn these actions, and we call on North Korea to stop their unlawful and destabilizing actions. As for South Korea, the U.S. and Republic of Korea's alliance is ironclad, and the Trump administration remains in close contact with our South Korean counterparts as we work together to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific. Sure.
First question you didn't answer that release of South Korean president from jail.
I don't have anything on that, but I can certainly check in with the National Security Council and get back to you. Sure, good to see you.
Press Secretary, many are concerned about the validity of President Biden's official actions and also his pardons of the possible criminal actions of individuals such as his family members and Liz Cheney, as information is emerging that many of his official actions were auto-signed, possibly even the pardons, and without his knowledge or consent. Does the White House have any information available currently that Biden was actually the one that approved and signed those pardons? And second question, will the DOJ investigate whether President Biden's cognitive decline allowed unelected staff to push through radical policy and pardons without his knowing approval?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I can check in with our folks here who may know the answer to that question and get back to you. Dasha, go ahead.
You did a great job articulating the vision that President Trump has for what he believes his tariffs can do in terms of bringing jobs back to the United States. I asked you last week about how much Americans might need to buckle up for some short-term pain, a conversation that with the President and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent have had with the people. I'm wondering, how high is the pain threshold for President Trump and for this White House as you watch some of the turbulence in the stock markets, as you field concerns from businesses and potentially see some of those approval ratings drop in the short term? How much is he willing to stomach that, and will he stay committed to his vision for tariffs even as all of this comes up?
Well, the president has been working hard every single day to alleviate the pain that was inflicted by the previous administration through massive deregulation, through drill baby drill, as we like to call it, unleashing the might of our energy industry, which we know will ultimately drive down costs for consumers here at home. And again, as I mentioned, the president is intent on signing tax cuts for the American people to put more money back into their pockets, which will ultimately unlock consumer confidence. And again, I'll reiterate the president's words in layman's terms as he does best. The president wants the American people to have so much more money in their pockets, they don't know what to do with it. That's the goal of this administration through tariffs, through tax cuts, through deregulation, and through unleashing the potential of our energy industry. I have two more quick notes before I wrap up. April 28th, I can confirm that the Philadelphia Eagles will be here at the White House to celebrate their Super Bowl victory. I know there was a lot of fake news about an invitation that wasn't sent or was sent. We want to correct the record. We sent an invitation. They enthusiastically accepted, and you will see them here on April 28th. And lastly, on a sad note, I would like to express our condolences to Fox News and to the entire Fox family who did lose a cameraman, Craig Savage, who passed away at 61 years old recently. A very tragic death, an individual who was a great man and covered this building for many, many years. So the entire press office, the communications office here wants to express our condolences with his family and also with Fox News. And I'll see you guys later. Perhaps you'll see the president in a Tesla later this afternoon. Have a good one.
Well, for sure, we did see the president in a Tesla 100%. Anyway, everybody has been complaining about the price of eggs. Listen to what the agriculture secretary had to say. Listen to this.
Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and I hope you're having a good Tuesday morning. It is Tuesday, March 11th. It is 8:01 on the East Coast. President Trump telling me in my exclusive interview that farmers will flourish under his leadership. Watch.
The farmers never did better than when I was president. Now, this is a very different thing for the farmers. Here, the farmers are going to make their money at home because they're not going to be able to dump all this stuff from, in many cases, dirty stuff, but they're not going to dump it into our country. The farmers can make it and sell it locally as opposed to going and selling it overseas to China. It's very different, but there'll ultimately be more money for the farmer than there was even before. But the sad part, when Biden was president, he didn't press China to buy the product. They agreed to buy $50 billion worth of product a year. And they were doing it, and then when he came in, they didn't do it.
And that was the trade deal that President Trump did with China. This year, it's more about tariffs. China retaliated yesterday to President Trump's tariffs. They imposed a 15% tariff on items including chicken, wheat, corn, cotton, plus a 10% tariff on soybeans, sorghum, pork, beef, seafood, fruits, vegetables, and dairy products. President Trump considering now new tariffs on Canadian lumber and dairy products. He's threatening to match Canada's roughly 250% tariff on U.S. dairy. Joining me now is the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. Madam Secretary, thanks so much for being here this morning.
Maria, it's so great to be with you. Thank you.
And to you, I want to get your take on this tariff conversation because it certainly has stoked fear among some business people and markets, investors. Yesterday, big sell-off in stocks. How do you expect tariffs to impact American farmers?
Well, first of all, Maria, I think it is no question that the president from minute one has believed so strongly, and the American people agreed with him, that tariffs are a very important part of his toolkit for him to be able to truly make America great again, including American farmers great again. He is going to be making some big, bold, fearless moves, and that's what we see him doing right now. But I would like to also say, Maria, I know you know this well as also, that no one has the farmers back more than President Trump. And while he has been very clear that for the short term, it may be slightly bumpy, that for the long term, that this group of people, that our farmers and our ranchers, but also all of Americans, we are reaching and moving into a new golden age in American prosperity, and that those in our country that work hard and dream big and believe in the vision that this is a new era of prosperity for everyone. So I am so proud of President Trump. He has been unequivocal in his battle for this country and also for our farmers and ranchers.
Yeah, he sure has. And in that soundbite that we just played from my interview on Sunday, he talks about how the farmers will be better off under his leadership in the second term and be able to sell more domestically. Now, with the tariffs in place and China retaliating, does that put a limit on what the farmers may want to sell to China or what we're importing? In terms of the impact of farmers, domestic sales versus international, what do you see?
Well, here's the bottom line. When we left after the first term 4 years ago, there was a 0% trade deficit. Today, for our American farmers and ranchers, there's a $49 billion trade deficit. The Biden team did nothing to expand markets, to move our product across the world. So while the president certainly is correct that the more we can produce and sell within our own country, the better. But at the end of the day, he also believes that we've got to expand these markets across the country. It's not, China can do what China needs to do, but we are working already across this country. Yesterday, I had 2 conversations with foreign countries on expanding markets, getting all of our great products out into the world, into new markets, and beginning to take that trade deficit back to zero, and hopefully even move it the other way when we're done in 4 years.
So you're okay with tariffs on things like potash? And, I know that he's taking a break for a month, giving some transition period to some, but you're okay with these tariffs that we're talking about with regard to farming?
Well, listen, this is a renegotiation in the world order, right? This is for too long. America has been taken advantage of, including our farmers and our ranchers.
Yeah.
The president had a very, very direct conversation, very colorful, with Justin Trudeau, Governor Trudeau, as he likes to say. And he went hard and said, why are you charging our dairy products a 250% tariff? This is not okay. That is not okay. And it's not going to continue. He's going to rebalance the entire world. We're going to open up new markets. So for right now, and our farmers and our ranchers know this, that it will be a little bit bumpy for a short term. But for the long term, what he has said, and I believe this, that the age of better and more prosperity than perhaps our ag community has ever seen is on the way. And that's his vision, and we're implementing it.
And the president has been very clear, calling it a transition period. Well, I want to get your take on protecting America's product, America's farming. The Agriculture Department says that China owns nearly 350,000 acres of American farmland across 29 states, 43.4 million acres owned by overall foreign entities and individuals as of 2022. Lawmakers have emphasized potential security risks as a result of this. Some of the Chinese-owned land is also near military bases, and we know what that means. A lot of people wondering whether critical farm products could be exploited by communist China. So, Secretary, what are you doing about these Chinese-owned farms in the United States? Should Americans feel safe and secure that our food is safe, given that they are Chinese-owned? Because we don't know what they're going to do next to undermine America. From COVID to intellectual property theft to everything else, the surveillance. Right. Should we trust Chinese-owned farmland?
No, Maria, it is a big problem. And we are talking about a federal solution to that. I am very much a 10th Amendment girl. Let the states manage the issues. But this is a national security risk. It's not just a risk to our farmers and our ranchers and the fact that we're losing our farmland to overseas, but the fact that China is buying so much of it. A lot of states, I think a dozen states now, are moving on banning the sale. Kristi Noem, now our Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, she was one of the first governors out the gate to do it. I believe Sarah Sanders in Arkansas. So the states are moving forward. But just yesterday, I was meeting with some of our lawmakers on the Hill talking about how we have a federal solution to this issue and we don't allow it to happen moving forward. It is a major national security issue for our country.
Yeah, it is, and I'm so happy that you're on it. We've got to talk about the price of eggs. The Department of Justice launching an antitrust investigation now into major egg producers. As prices remain high, the average cost of a dozen eggs around $7 this month compared to roughly $4 in December. By the way, I've seen it even higher than $7, much higher, by the way. Egg prices are up 53% year over year. So, Secretary, you announced a $1 billion investment to curb bird flu. You rolled out a 5-part plan to reduce prices of eggs. They include deregulating production, importing some eggs, up to 100 million eggs from other countries, securing barns to reduce disease, and repopulating culled birds. How will you carry this out? Assess the situation for us and the timeline that you expect for some price release on eggs.
Well, I actually come with some good news today, and it's likely that the prices will go back up. We're moving into the highest price egg season without avian bird flu, and that's because Easter's right around the corner. But recently, I think just a couple of days ago, the price of eggs is coming down. And we believe that is in reaction. The market has reacted to our plan that we rolled out on February 26th, just about a week and a half ago, that the prices have come down on average about $1.85 per dozen eggs. So we're seeing some relief. We've got a long way to go. Listen, combating the avian bird flu is not something that we can do overnight. It is a long-term effort. But the Biden administration, this was a major problem that they had 2 years ago. They talked about it, they wrote some plans about it, and then nothing ever happened. So I think that it's really important to know, and for your viewers, that we are on it. We have a major plan we've rolled out. As you mentioned, it's got 5 different points. But the really piece of, at least right now today, good news is that the price of eggs seem to be coming down. And $1.85 per carton is not insignificant, but we've got a long way to go.
Well, that's way down from where it was, though. $1.85 is actually incredible. But this is an issue that hits consumers as well as corporations because there's an input cost here. You need eggs to make so many other things. And so it's not just consumers buying a dozen eggs, it's companies having to spend on the producer level. And then, you know, you go into restaurants, you see a sign, oh, sorry, if you order an omelet, you'll have to pay an extra $2 or something.
That's exactly right. Well, and also, Maria, you know, the president's vision and what we're working so hard to do is to take the American dream to every corner of this country, but especially those that have been forgotten, right, under previous administrations. Yeah. And so eggs are a very inexpensive, very nutritious source of protein. So now we're kind of getting into the nutrition side. But listen, when you've got a major obesity epidemic in this country, especially amongst those at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder, right? Then you have a SNAP program, which is under USDA. That's the food stamp program that's basically covering and paying with taxpayer dollars sugary drinks and candy. You have a massive health epidemic. So that it isn't just the input of eggs and how important eggs are for all of us, right? I've got 4 teenagers. I'm feeding a big family every single day. Eggs are a big part of that. But for me, too, it's much bigger than that. It's how do we ensure that those with the least among us have the best access to be able to feed their family and raise healthy, strong kids for the next generation. So this is a much bigger policy issue than just, you know, we got to fix avian bird flu. We do. We've got to make sure our egg layers and our poultry producers can thrive in America. We do. But we also have to make sure that this nutritious food is available for all Americans. And eggs are a big, big part of that.
And I like the idea that it's a whole of government effort. As you just mentioned, the nutrition end of it is also important. RFK Jr. is making his own moves there at HHS. Let me get your take on spending real quick before you go. It's under the microscope. You recently canceled a $600,000 grant for a study on menstrual cycles that included transgender men. What? The grant went to a Louisiana university and focused on, quote, growing concerns over menstruation, including the use of natural fibers like hemp.
What does that have to do with agriculture, though?
In feminine hygiene products, Secretary? What is going on here?
I mean, is this not just insanity that our taxpayer dollars just yesterday, on top of that, on top of the $600,000 studying menstrual cycles in transgender men, just yesterday we canceled 2 more contracts, $320,000 to New York, another $320,000 to San Francisco, and get this, to study food justice in the queer and transgender population. You can't make this up. The president of the at the joint session of Congress, basically the State of the Union last week, was talking about transgender mice. I mean, this is taxpayer dollars that the last administration took from all the hardworking Americans and instead pushed out into these radical left-wing research grants that now we're pulling it all back. And listen, God bless President Trump. Yeah. God bless Elon Musk. God bless Doge. We welcome them at USDA because we continue to uncover more and more of this insanity.
Yeah. And the egregious part of it, nobody knew it. Right? I mean, taxpayers have no idea where their money is going.
That's right.
So thank you for your work on that as well. Secretary, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy, Genesis. It is currently 3:14 a.m. and today's date is the 12th of March, 2025. Of course, how is your year going so far? Are you still sticking to your New Year's resolution? I don't think so. Those New Year resolution starts going to shit around the 3rd week of January. But anyway, the Department of Education is going down, y'all. Listen to this.
Oh, you can't say he didn't warn you.
Linda, I hope you do a great job and put yourself out of a job. I want her to put herself out of a job. Education Department.
All right, and a move that seems to portend the beginning of the end for the department that Republicans, going back to Reagan, pledged to abolish. The Department of Education today told staffers to vacate their offices by 6 p.m. because the offices were closing nationwide. The doors are now locked. Workers aren't going to be allowed back into the buildings until at least Thursday. When they do return, it'll be a more cozier group. Nearly half of the 4,100 workers are being cut in what the department is calling a reduction in force. President Trump addressed staff cuts in general today.
We want to cut people that aren't doing the job. We want to keep the right people.
Absolutely.
And I said, I don't want to just say we're going to cut 50%. I want to cut the people that aren't doing the job.
Joining me now, Department of Education Secretary Linda McMahon. Madam Secretary, great to have you in studio today. All right. First, welcome to the show, because you haven't been in studio with me before. Now, is this the first step on the road to a total shutdown?
Yes, actually it is, because that was the president's mandate, his directive to me, clearly is to shut down the Department of Education, which we know we'll have to work with Congress, to get that accomplished. But what we did today was to take the first step of eliminating what I think is bureaucratic bloat. And that's not to say that a lot of the folks, it's a humanitarian thing too. A lot of the folks that are there, they're out of a job. But we wanted to make sure that we kept all of the right people and the good people to make sure that the outward-facing programs, the grants, the appropriations that come from Congress, all of that are being met. And none of that's going to fall through the cracks.
So that was my next question. So the criteria for keeping that 50% is related to expenditures and key programs?
Correct. Congress appropriates the money that is going through Title I to IDEA programs.
What's that stand for?
Do you know what? I'm not sure I can tell you exactly what it stands for, except that it's the programs for disabled and needs.
Individuals with Disabilities Act, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm guessing. I don't know. I don't know all my acronyms. I've been here for 30 years.
This is my 5th day on the job, and I'm really trying to learn them very quickly.
Right. It's a lot. So reports today said that the buildings were going to be closed for security reasons. What does that mean?
Well, when people left today and they got their notification to take their laptops and their phones home with them, and we didn't want part of the people who were being permanently let go and those who are remaining to some of them show up to work tomorrow morning.
That's standard corporate practice.
So it's just standard corporate practice that we just locked the doors and said for those that are coming back will know that they'll be coming back on Thursday morning.
Were people given a chance to take any personal effects?
They were told that they will be allowed to come back. We would arrange for them to come back and take their personal effects with them. and to say goodbye to some folks, too.
Randy Weingarten, you're shocked. I know you two are catching dinner in about 20 minutes, but she actually commented about what's going on here. Watch.
Think about a country whose president basically says, I'm getting rid of education. What does that say about the future? So many people are so mad about it because they're just taking opportunity away from kids that don't have it. So billionaires, kids of billionaires, they have it.
Let's stay on the facts.
Sorry.
No,
I'm
do
really
not
angry
apologize.
about this.
No, because this
I'm
is what
really
people
angry.
need to.
Your reaction?
Well, clearly, we're not taking away education. The president never said that. He's taken the bureaucracy out of education so that more money flows to the states. Better education is closest to the kids, with parents, with local superintendents, with local school boards. I think we'll see our scores go up with our students when we can educate them with parental input as well.
Well, she's very angry. And over the weekend, I posted on X that it would be nice if Randy were ever angry about the abysmal 8th grade and 4th grade reading and math proficiency. You see those numbers, like 18%, 22% of proficiency or above? In 4th and 8th grade, we rank near the bottom globally on these standards. Well, it's shocking, given how much, and we're putting up a graphic, given how much we spend. I can't even, it's terrible.
Well, I'll tell you, it's unbelievable. And when you think about high school seniors that are graduating, only 30% of them are reading proficiently. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't read words, but they can't read cognitively. And that's what we're missing. You know, you read to learn up until 3rd grade, and then after that, you're learning to read up until the end of 3rd grade, then you're reading to learn. And if you can't read after the end of 3rd grade, you're going to be behind in your reading. And so that's what we have to focus on.
Well, you know what I say to my own kids? If you don't read, I'm not talking about this, by the way. I'm not talking about phones. I'm like, if you don't read real books, you probably can't write.
True.
You must read to write. I've been preaching this gospel. I'm not saying my kids are all that great at it, but it's just terrible. I want to ask you on a personal level. You're a businesswoman, and you've known President Trump for a long time. This is a new world for you, this education department. How shocked were you, if at all, about how swampy it really is?
Well, this is my 5th day on the job. And so, I did serve in the first administration of SBA. But so when I got to the Department of Education, the president said, look, I need an executive, I need a leader in the department. And so when I got there and I found out, I said, okay, we have to identify where the bloat is, where the bureaucracy is, and we're going to start there. Because the programs, so many of the programs are really excellent. We need to make sure that money does get to the states. But we want more money to be able to go to the states. And that's what the president said all along. If we get rid of the bureaucracy, the states will get more. It'll go directly into the states.
Block grants to states.
Perhaps block grants without so many strings and red tape attached to it.
What's your interaction been with Elon Musk during your very brief tenure so far?
Well, it's been excellent. And I did co-chair the transition committee going into the administration, had a chance to work with him there. Have met with him twice, and we have Doge, a couple of the Doge, 3, I think, Doge fellows that are in our department, and I look at it as an audit. If you were in the private sector, this would be an audit, and turns up a lot of things in the audit. Some of you look at it and say, no, we can get rid of that. No, this is the implication that you don't understand, so we can't get rid of that. So I think...
So they have read-only access to the files? To your grant files and so forth?
Well,
budget files?
Yeah, they're not changing any of the budgets of that sort. They're there to find out information, to make suggestions. But, the secretaries and the agency heads are actually the ones who run the departments and make the final decisions.
Well, it's great to have you in studio. You're going to get a lot of protests outside of my old department, where my first job in Washington was at the Department of Education. I was only 22, but I had no idea what any of those people did. I just wrote speeches. I was like, I don't know what these. But it's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, you take care.
And the agency.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the live stream. Double tap your screen and subscribe to the channel. We will be back here today because it's a new day. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and believe in God. All right? Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful night rest. And stay productive, stay creative, work hard, and believe in God. Okay. God bless you. God bless me. God bless the United States. Thank you to the veterans. Thank you to the military members. God bless you guys. Thank you. Good night.